you getting yourself ready for our show?
Everybody, Bobby Roast Beef here, back with you another Jigs and Bigs on this Tuesday. Can you believe it? We're so close. This is episode number 200, by the way. Yeah. And this coming Saturday, we're going to celebrate that fact over in Chicopee, Massachusetts. We're going to raise some money for an amazing organization. We're going to have ourselves some really great wild game eats. All kinds of good stuff going on this weekend. But this week, the road to get there, it's kind of been all over the place. Guys, we have a great conversation. We're going to dive deep into some real BS this week. First and foremost, we're going to dive into some comment sections that kind of caught our eye. We did a little bit of organizing some of these comments to look at what was going on. We're just a little amazed. So that's coming up early on in this segment of this week's show. In FTG this week, the Bass Pro Shop buffoonery continues. What state is it in now? We'll find out. Then the sheer number of folks that have been messaging me is probably in the ballpark of 25 to 30 already. I can't believe it. This is something that you guys have caught some attention with. So this ought to be really, really good. We got Alec Plotnikiewicz back on the show. You might remember about 100 episodes ago or so, we had him on, and now we're catching up with him. We're talking about goals for 2024. He's got a brand new boat. He's got all kinds of good stuff going on, and your boy managed to do some fishing this week. He actually managed to go out and do a little bit of BFS send. We'll talk about that too. Guys, you don't want to miss out. We got much more good stuff coming up for you, all of your friends. Go ahead, grab yourself something delicious to enjoy. Jigs and Bigs is going to be back right after this.
What you doing scratching up on the fucking phones?
How you guys doing this week? Gentlemen, I got Who the Fuck is Joe Brown? I got Sean the Fisherman here.
Fantastic.
It is.
Doing fantastic.
I love it. I fucking love it.
I'm tired. I moved some fucking snow today. Moved a lot of fucking snow.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I felt life in New England significantly today. That sucked balls for what it's worth. Hopefully this is it. That'd be nice. I like those winters when you're like, oh, it snowed once. Okay, we got enough. Let's move on. Let's get to spring.
I'm the same way, but I made that very dumb purchase last year where I bought the side by side with the plow, and days like today, I'm like, it's great. I can I plow a little bit, then I run up and down my street like a total fucking redneck degenerate for a little bit. Then I start plowing again.
Yeah, as one does. I'll tell you what, that is the way to do it. I was out today with the shovel nice and early, just kind of doing like dog maintenance, giving them a spot where they could go out and do their business, because both of them jumped in the fucking snow today, and then they gave me that look where they look so helpless, and they're like, it's too deep, Dad. Yeah. And I'm like, you
fucking idiots.
So they have a little pen that I've created for them, and then I started working on the walkway and the sidewalks and everything, and then I was like, I'm gonna pull my truck out and then clear the snow, because I'm a degenerate fuck. I clear my snow off my vehicle in the street, because they're gonna end up plowing the end of my driveway over with it anyways, or whatever. It's a losing battle. I give the fuck up. So I go out there, I clear off my truck, and I'm like, I'm gonna try and go get some backup for this. I actually went live because I was trying to get my youngest had a sleepover last night at a friend of hers house, and I told her, I was like, she wanted me to make this dinner, right? Saturday night is what it was. And I made the best. I'm sorry, this would destroy Sean in every which way. Sadly, nearly every ingredient would wring out his digestive system like a wet rag.
Good stuff.
Yeah, excellent stuff. But I'll tell you, it was damn tasty. So she's been on this tear of like sending me recipes. Like, you should make this. Well, my wife signed up to work like 3 shifts for this agency at her old job. Like, what kind of a psycho are you? You left there. Stay gone.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Yep. So, it was just me and the girls all weekend. So this morning when I got up, I was texting Delaney and I was like, look, I'm going to come pick you up. I said, you can finish off the driveway. I'm going to do some work in the kitchen and get things ready for tonight. She's like, okay, sweet. She did a great job. She really did. Although the plows did go by and completely undo the end of the driveway like they always do. It's the worst. It is the worst. So after we're done recording, I'm going to go fix that. And then hopefully my wife doesn't yell at me. She just constantly, it's a never ending cycle. It's ridiculous. Fucking hate winter.
I did do, Bobby and I talked about it briefly, but I did something for the first time last night.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I was able to taste crispy, crunchy chicken for the first time.
Dude.
And I was not disappointed.
I don't know if they brine their chicken or what they do, but it is so unbelievably juicy and it's so flavorful. It is out of this world.
I coming from a fucking gas station,
right?
You know what I mean? Like,
dude.
Oh my God, I was impressed.
So we got some stuff going on this week. This week was one of those weeks where I was going into it like, I'm not going to get the fish. Like, there's no way. We've had this string of really, really, really cold temps overnight, which has really kind of helped just kind of put enough skim ice on all of the still water around us to kind of fuck everything up. It's like one of those situations where, like, if there's a creek channel running through a pond or something like that, you can see that as open water, but everything else is all skimmed up, and you're just like, well, this does me no good. So I was, knowing that the 200th episode celebration is coming up on the 13th, we got to dot all the I's. We got to cross all the T's. I had a walkthrough at the venue today. This week, I had some rentals that I had to go and handle. I'm going to be, getting some lighting options and a big projector and screen set up because we've got some good visuals that we want to share at this upcoming celebration show that we're recording on the 13th. So I bring that up because we're going to be doing a little bit of a tier list. This isn't super original. There's a lot of podcasts and creators, live streamers and stuff that have done these kind of tier lists before. But what we are doing that's original is we're doing this live and in person. And one of the things I worked on this week was creating a way to have the crowd, our attendees for our event, be able to vote on the tier list and put sort of like the crowd, the crowd's overall weigh-in opinion on each of these topics. And then the other thing that I had done was to create the tier list. And what we're doing so this is what you'll be able to hear in episode 201. We're doing a tier list of some of the most iconic, like, fishing stereotypes that you could encounter on the water. And, a lot of these things, there are pluses and minuses too. Some of them, many more minuses. Some of them, many, many more pluses. And we're going to kind of balance the two and figure out where everything goes and kind of rate it on a little bit of a grading system. It could be a lot of fun. So, and it's also primarily for entertainment purposes, obviously. So if anybody gets like super upset about it, check yourself because you got problems. So I had to work on that. Had a bit of a snafu. I'm not going to go and sugarcoat anything. Had a little bit of a snafu at the last minute on Friday with the venue, but luckily everything was able to get smoothed over and worked out. So show is good to go for Saturday the 13th. I hope all you guys want to come out and get there. Tickets are going to be available. And this was the other big thing. I had put out a call early at the end of, I think, last weekend about it being last call for tickets because I was expecting it any day for them to say, we need a final number now. The number that they need is first thing on the morning of the 12th. So you have up until the 11th to get your tickets. If you're kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to go.
I don't know if I'm going to go, guys. I'm not sure if I want to eat wild boar and elk and kangaroo kebabs and stuff like that and be entertained by these three fucking sexy ass individuals. Do I really know if I want to go to their fucking party?
You should. And you should get your tickets now. Maybe those are the thoughts that are going in your head. You should get your tickets now. jigsandbigs.com. If you follow us on social media, you follow us, especially like on Instagram, there's a link in the bio. You can go ahead and click that link in our bio, and you can purchase your tickets right there. We try to make it so easy. So the other thing to talk about is the raffle. got in touch with some folks that are providing some pretty awesome prizes. And also didn't hear from a bunch of folks that I'm waiting to hear from, which sucks. Luckily, the folks that are in support have been like really supportive and very, very cool. We appreciate that. So our raffle is actually going to be pretty amazing. And we're going to be doing the raffle live, but we have non-attending tickets available. And those are good for raffle tickets. So you get 30 tickets per non-attending ticket that you buy. It's a $30 ticket. It's $1 a ticket. Now, obviously, if you're there at the show, you get a little bit of a benefit of being at the show because we have these ridiculous numbers of tickets that you'll be able to buy in 3 groupings. One of them is Bobby Roast Beef's waist. Well, the other one is Sean the Fisherman's height. And the biggest amount of tickets that you can get is the measurement of who the fuck is Joe Brown's love for America. Which... he's going to need that side-by-side to drag around. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yep. It's not.
No. So this ought to be really good, guys. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I want to now. Did you guys do anything like fishy this week at all?
Not a thing.
It's so wild that we have this weather because a week and a half ago, I almost pulled the fucking boat out.
Right?
And the only reason I didn't is because everything is out of it. You know, I have no tackle or anything out of it, and I was like, "Fuck, well, I'm not."
Because then you got to go and load it with a bunch of stuff and play this game.
Yeah. I almost did a bank send, and then I don't know. I just didn't. But no, nothing too fishy. That's fish related. I'm always doing fishy, sketchy shit.
It's always
just nothing that was fish related.
I did some fishy shit this week. So I had, I explained before that this Christmas I was lucky. I had the good fortune of having a Dark Wolf Ultra BFS reel under the tree waiting for me, and I was ecstatic about this. And then on Christmas Day, I went onto Bait Finesse Empire and I purchased a 6'5" light bait casting reel with a really fast tip. This was recommended to me by some past guests on the show, Jeff and Paul from Aggressively Average Anglers. They had done some videos ranking some of the BFS stuff and kind of putting together like the best sort of combos. And this is actually the combo that they elected as like the best value. Like it can pretty much do everything. You're going to be happy with the experience you have with it, but you're also not going to pay an arm and a leg for like a Shimano Aldebaran that can do, you know what I mean? Now, with the BFS stuff, what I've noticed is that there's folks that are like really in, like they dive in, and then there's folks that are like bass anglers that are like, oh yeah, you have a BFS combo, and that combo is rated to like throw like baits at like around 1/8 of an ounce, maybe a 1/16 will do. And you know what? Those are great. I was looking for like really, really ultralight shit, like really ultralight shit. Yeah. So this actually worked out really good, but. And I don't know if we're going to make this Gear of the Week segment, this week necessarily or not. That's up in the air. But one of the things that Bait Finesse Empire does is, or at least in the 2 packages that I had sent over, they'd put in like lures in there as like a little bonus, like just a little like, hey, thanks for doing business with us.
That's cool.
And both of these were actually from the same company that makes the Dark Wolf, Suranoia, right? And they were these little like trout style minnows. Like small jerk baits. One of them is called the sinking minnow, and I've never seen anything like this. That like oblong style like body, but at the very tail end, it's almost like a spy bait. Like there's a blade right where that last hook is. And I'm learning some stuff. Like a lot of folks will use these small minnows like fishing for trout, and they'll swap out the hooks to a single hook so that when you're, these sinking minnows seem to hit the bottom. And that's exactly what they did. I was like, okay, I don't work this like a traditional jerkbait. This is something else. And so I gotta fool around with that. But I did get out. I wanted to get out on Friday. It did not work out, which kind of sucked. I did on Friday manage to go and get my rig all set up and take a few practice casts with it. I'm kind of amazed at how far I can fling these light baits. I really am. And like
I was gonna ask you that with the 6.5, not even 6.5 foot rod. Like I was gonna ask you about the casting distance.
With the power rating being a light, it loads up pretty good. Like it really does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's surprisingly, because that's the thing. Initially, I was like, I wanted a 7-foot rod. That's what I was looking for. It was like a 7.71. That's what I was looking for. That's like kind of like my comfort zone. And I started to think a little bit differently with it, because I'll give you a perfect example. If I'm going to go and do a wet wade where I physically can only have one rod with me, you know what I mean? This is going to be the one I'm going to take, because it's short, it's accurate. I can pop things where they need to go, but it's kind of crazy how far I can cast with this comfortably. Throwing a little bit too much arm into it is bad. I kind of figured that out. I decided I was going to run braid to leader on this one. I may change that and go to mono. I might.
Okay. All right. Before my fucking reel exploded.
Yep.
I was running straight fluoro no. I had a mono. I had a little bit of a mono backing, and then I ran fluoro.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran fluoro with mine.
What reel are you using, Joe, for your BFS? Is it a Corrado?
It was a Corrado until it fucking exploded.
That's right. What are you running now?
Nothing for BFS.
Oh, okay.
That happened down at Hartwell.
That sucked.
Yeah. And granted, it's not something for me as a tournament angler. I don't use them. I don't use that setup in a tournament, because it's just, you got to kind of play with the fish. Especially if you catch something decent.
Yeah.
But I was using it just to dick around, trying to, I was just using it. And luckily it wasn't during the tournament, but I was fucking casted it, and then just the spring shot the whole fucking handle right off. And I haven't even touched it since. So who knows if I will. You know
what? When we do the 200th show, I'll take my BFS combo upstairs, and so you can see how light this thing is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing, the thing is, the reel is pretty much entirely plastic and carbon fiber. Like, it's so ridiculously light. It's so light.
So do you know what the internals are? Are they brass? Are they just?
I think I have a feeling they're brass.
Okay.
I have a feeling that they're brass. This is a reel where, like, even the handles, the grips on the handles for the crank, they're cut away, so they're open, like it's like almost skeletal, So the idea is to keep it as light as possible. It's got a really, really shallow spool, like a BFS would.
Yeah.
So my initial thought was I wanted to do like really light braid. Mm-hmm. So I'm using 10-pound. It was as light as I've got, and as light as I was able to find. I actually want to downsize even more and go to 8-pound. Just to get it a little bit smaller. But the rod and the reel are both rated for, they're both rated as high as 10-pound. And that's 10-pound mono, I believe, is what the rating is on there. So I'm like, okay, so it's definitely going to fit. It'll do the job. It works great. And my thought was I would done a little bit of research, and I'd heard from a lot of folks that they'll choose to use like braid to a leader simply to keep their main line on there. So they're not cutting away at this main line, and then they go out one time and they're like, oh shit, I have like 2 yards of fucking line on here. And it's not, because it's such a shallow spool. It doesn't hold much line at all.
It doesn't hold much at all.
Yeah. So I'm like, for the time being, until I get a good grasp of this, I put like a 4-foot leader on for the first one that I put on. And I was like, because I wanted to try to keep that knot out and outside the guides. Unlike my spinning reels, I just fucking reel the knot right up. I'll put like a 20-foot leader on. That's fine. I was really amazed at how well this did with my braid to leader knot with no problem. And it's not like I tie like a super like slender FG knot. I'm a double uni guy. It ain't a small knot.
I will say I still struggle with braid to leader knots.
Oh yeah.
I use the Alberto, and man, before that I was using the double uni. But I don't think I ever actually fucking tied it effectively, because this is an embarrassing thing to say that I never have admitted, but I have lost some nice fish because my fucking leader snapped.
Your leader's let go? Oh no.
Yeah. Yep. Because unfortunately, a lot of the time it's like on the fly. You know what I mean? Like just trying to. And that Alberto knot, I've done much better with. But I will 100% admit it. My fucking braid to leader knots are absolute fucking dog shit.
How many, when you were doing a double uni, how many twists were you doing on each knot?
7.
7. Yeah. See, I was doing like that between 7 and 10. And my knot was huge. It was like a fucking ball of yarn going through. It was huge.
Well, so it's funny. Like I used to do that. I was doing like what kept me what I was like, I was actually talking to Josh Coutier.
Yep.
And he's like, dude, will you fucking do the Alberto knot? And like, we were fucking around. He kind of showed me a little bit. And I was like, all right, I like this, because there was one time where I had a double uni that was so big. Yeah. And I was using a rod that had such micro guides.
Yeah. It was just getting lost, right?
I actually lost the fucking insert, and like in my head, I'm like, it's because of that fucking knot, which it probably wasn't. Yeah. But like in my head, I that's all I could think of. But
so it's funny. Like now I've got them down to where like I'm pretty confident I do like 3 or 4 on each side, and it's alright. It's a nice compact knot.
Yep.
So I was impressed. I was really impressed. I was making casts all over the place. I lost one bait when it was on my second to last cast. I had gone and I was like, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll give this another rip across the way. And I got this one little jig cut in a tree, wrapped around enough, and I was like, yeah, it's just gonna break off. That's not gonna.
Know where that would be a cool setup to bring?
Where's that?
The Swift.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that'd be a cool. I mean, to catch one of those browns or something on a fucking bait cast setup on the Swift River, that'd be fucking dope.
Well, so I had gone out and I had a plan. There's a small river that goes through a neighboring town near me, and I fished there once already, and there's a couple of good spots that are over there. And then a couple of years ago, there's another river further out of the way that there's just spots that look so fishy, man. There's just riprap banks, lay downs, shit like that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go for this. And actually, it happened to work out where I think they had cleared some of the brush that was grown up because they're about to do some construction nearby. Yeah. And I don't know how that affects anything, but so it's wide open now. The access is great. So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and go for it. And I actually fished. There's a dam. I fished both sides of this. When I was on my way out, I couldn't get a bite above the dam anywhere. Sure. Nowhere. But this is where I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to throw around. I was throwing primarily a small, like finesse swim bait on a 1/32 ounce jig head. And that's what I ultimately got bit on. And then I threw around a couple of those like sinking minnows just to kind of fuck around with them and see what I thought. And then I threw one of those like super small cranks that we had gotten from Dark Horse. Yep. And just to kind of see like how like different baits would cast on this, how I had to tweak things to like go from like an ultralight bait to like something closer to conventional. And I was really impressed with this combo. Like unbelievable. A couple of backlashes here and there until I got the brakes sort of dialed and the tension dialed where I wanted it. I think I got it pretty good right now. So then I go over and I'm below the dam now. And I was amazed. I was like, I should have started here. Just the sheer number of laydowns was like, it was just juicy. It was just a fishy spot. Current ripping down where the spillway is, and then kind of opens up and widens up a little bit, gets to like a couple of other pools with some downed logs. And I'm like, all right, let's go for it. I caught, like a 5-inch fall fish, right? Tiny little thing. In fact, like it was one of these things where like I had a notification or something on my phone. I had just cast and let my jig just kind of drift on the way down. And I reach in my pocket and I look at my phone and I put it right back in my pocket right away because it wasn't important. And I noticed that my line stopped moving and I just reeled up a little bit. I could tell that there was something there. And I didn't even like set the hook so much as I just kind of leaned a little bit and cranked in this little fall fish. I'm like, I'm holding the thing. I'm like, the pocket is like, I'm wearing my AFCO hoodie and it's got that giant pocket and like the phone drifted to the other side. And I'm like, I got a fish in my hand. God damn it. What the fuck? I'm reaching around trying to grab the phone. I got the phone. I'm like, I haven't caught a fish since early November, mid-November. I'm like, I need a picture. This has got to happen. So I got my picture. I released this fish. And then just as if, but this is just Murphy's Law. It's just Murphy's fucking law. Remember I told you my boy Eric has just been killing it lately? I get a text from him.
Yep.
He's back on the river, just caught a 16-pound pike. Jesus. And another tank freaking largemouth. I'm like, dude, oh my God.
I know a couple people that have gotten their boats out, and that's the reason why I was going to pull mine out, because they're getting those big winter fish,
big feeders. Yeah,
you know what I mean. No one's on there's no fucking ice for people to be, acting a fool on the ice. But they're out there. Obviously now we got the skim ice now, so now we're in that weird fucking. We're in that weird, middle ground to where no boats are out and you can't ice fish. But speaking of pike,
all right,
I'm going to tell you guys, and I'm just going to leave all the listeners like, where the fuck is he talking about? I got some info. I might have to do some urban fishing this year. I got some intel on a fucking spot. It's kind of a river. It's kind of like a factory area where there's like a spillway and stuff.
I love that shit.
It's like in between both of us. That supposedly holds like big pike that just sit there.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's fucking do it.
We needed. It's sketchy. I don't know.
Like sketchy. Like we're gonna risk our lives getting to it.
Not so much our lives. Maybe our pockets with fines.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know if it's public access or not. I don't know. It's because it's like. I'm pretty sure that factory is like condemned and doesn't like do anything anymore, but I haven't looked in. I got to do some research.
Yeah. We'll poke around, and that's the thing. I mean, if we're anybody, that's the nice thing about having these small compact combos, like the 2-piece, like all I have to do is just break apart the BFS and just go like, no, we're down here smoking meth, officer. It's fine. It's fine. We're just down here smoking crack.
And then they'll let you go.
Yeah. They'll be like, oh, well, carry on.
As you do. It's fine.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, I feel good. I'm going to give myself a little round of applause. I managed to get a little bit of fish slime on my hands, which is great. Didn't skunk with the BFS combo, which is that's really the intention. I can see. I also dropped like $100 at mulefishing.com. Just buying a bunch of like ultralight plastics and jigs, some really, really good options over there. So, Jeff and Paul have been a very, very bad influence. I even messaged them. I was like, you guys are bad. I have just spent so much money diving into this. But I think for me and YBFS, there was a follower over on Facebook that had asked, they're like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to get into it? And versus just using one of your spinning combos that you have. And I said, for me, it is. This is for me, the way that it works. It is worth it because actually, I'll bet you I can find this post.
I guess for me, it's like, it comes down to comfortability. Like for a lot, some people like for that shit, they like they'd rather prefer they prefer to use a spinning combo. Whereas 90% of what I use are casting combos. So it's just something I'm more comfortable with. And it was, it was just doing something out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? It's with BFS, it's not like typical casting gear where it's like, oh, I've been doing this forever. I'm just gonna hook this up and whip it out there. Like it takes some. It just what it says. It takes some finesse. It takes some adjustments and some getting used to it. But once you do, it's cool. Yeah. I mean, as a tournament angler, I don't recommend it in that aspect. But just to go out and have some fun, that's exactly what it is. You have a fucking blast with it. I really enjoyed my BFS combo before it fucking went all Chernobyl on me.
So we had a follower, Dwayne Wilson, in comment. He was like, "Oh, is it worth it?" He's like, "I've got two spinning reels for lightweighted baits." And I was like, "I've got two spinning combos as well, and I do think it's worth it for me." And I said, "There's primarily two main reasons." I was like, first off, I'm finding that as I'm getting a little bit older, I get a little carpal tunnel on my little carpal tunnel when I'm using a spinning combo. Just holding that rod. It kind of leads to a little bit of pain. So if I'm holding a spinning combo and I'm throwing a small jerk bait or I'm throwing anything like that, like just having my hand in that position grabbing that spinning rod, it proves that I get some soreness in my wrist. So I'm trying to avoid that. I was like, so gripping a bait caster in between is a nice little way to break that up, and I said that secondly, I was like, and this is probably the biggest reason. I said, I found an ideal finesse setup that bridges the gap in my finesse end of the spectrum of my rods. I said, I like to keep one of my 2 spinning combos rigged with a drop shot all the time because drop shots are a confidence bait for me. They are. They're not sexy, but they are. And they're great for multi-species. But I'll tell you, so the issue that I would run into is this. The other combo that I have, the other spinning combo, is a little bit more akin to throwing. It's a little bit more stout, so it's better with like single hook baits, Ned rigs, finesse jigs, things like that. And it could also handle a little bit more weight. I could throw a 1/4 ounce on that with no problem. I could throw 3/8 ounce, really, if I had to. And it would be all right. And I said, even weightless plastics will work great on that one. But the last year in this multi-species series really shed a lot of light, and I saw a lot more results throwing really, really light moving baits, and it helped me find fish that I ultimately needed for this. So what I said to him, I was like, my medium light that I use for a drop shot is the best fit in those situations, but then I'm cutting off a drop shot rig, tying on that. If I have to go back to a drop shot, that's the ideal candidate to use. I could throw it on the other one, I suppose, but then again, I got to cut off the Ned that's there and tie this. It's just a matter of like having the accessibility to what it is that I need. So I was like, my medium light that I use for a drop shot would be the best fit. I go, by adding the BFS into the mix, I can keep a drop shot rigged and at the ready at all times, but still have a light, ultralight moving presentation handy for when I got to find that goddamn rock bass, or I got to find that fucking perch or that crappie or something like that. And I want to try to cover water a little bit more effectively with something that's a little bit more up their speed. Actually, this week I'm going to be talking with Sarah, the closer, Parvin, and we're going to be talking about, I read an article, I think it was Outdoor Life, that she had done with them. And I was checking out some of her tips on fishing like different lures. I think she might be a shoe-in, dude, for the multi-species derbs. I'm just saying. Like, she's got a strategy. Like, when it comes to those big panfish, especially, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, there's factoring that in there. And then I threw this in there. I was like, I guess there is actually a third reason after using this combo, that this BFS combo would be ideal for a single rod wet weighting go-to. So it does have a role to play in everything. Like, that's where I think it's funny. Would I use it in a competitive situation? 100% yes, just to get my limit. You know what I mean? Like, that would be good. Yeah, I'm seeing you guys have this. Oh, you cut out for 15 seconds. I know. I just kept talking. To keep the recording going.
At least you knew.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I see the little spinning wheels of death in the other cameras. I'm like, oh yeah. I think somebody started a movie or something in the house, and that's probably what happened. So yeah, I mean, for me, that's how it fits in my spectrum, and that's why I think BFS is like. I do get a kick out of the people that get all upset about BFS. Like, they're like, "What's BFS stand for?"
Big fucking scam.
And I'm like. Who hurt you?
It is. I mean, the baits are cheaper, but the equipment is not easy on the pocket.
It's not. I'll tell you, the rods are not cheap. Like the rod, and if you get a cheap BFS rod, there's a reason.
You get what you pay for. That's what it comes down to.
I was able to with the Dark Wolf. What's nice, the Dark Wolf. It was related to me that. You can throw the lightest of light baits. Like you'll get that workability. There's also a couple of pretty quick and easy mods that you can do. Like, some people say that the reel is what they call overbraked. And there's a separate magnet set that you can put in its place that will kind of balance things out. There's, spool upgrades, but right out of the box for I think it's like $80 value. And they're like, it's going to outperform a lot of the other stuff in that market. It's going to come in at like one of the lightest reels. It's going to throw these super light baits. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to get into it. Like, there's some really, really nice Daiwa stuff that I'd love to try out. And if I see in the next year or two that I'm really, really like loving the BFS life, I might do an upgrade. You know, I do think that the Shimano Majestic XT is the fucking jam.
Yeah,
100%. I'm like, that is such a great rod. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It is a 2-piece, and I don't typically love that, but I'm learning to live with it.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. So that's basically my week for the most part. A lot of prep getting into the show on the 13th. I'm looking forward to that. I've had some people ask about an after party, and I'm like, is anybody planning an after party? I'm really not. I do have a suggestion for a bar that we can all go to for drinks afterwards. It's an Elks Lodge, so it's very, very friendly on the pocket, and I know a guy over there, so that's always a nice thing.
Even better. So they go from dollar drafts to 75-cent drafts.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I can't speak to one way or the other. They're economics, but you know what I do love about that Elks Lodge though? It's the one in Chicopee, the Fairview Lodge. The thing I love about that Elks Lodge is they have pull tabs there. And like,
oh God, you don't see those anymore.
You don't see those at a lot of bars.
You see those at like elk lodges and like fishing game clubs.
Yeah, and I'm
and all over the Midwest.
Yeah, they are. That's the Midwest. Okay. It's huge. That's like dive bar central. But like in Massachusetts, we don't see that a lot, and they're just fucking stupid but fun. You know.
You'll either see me at the Elks or because, I got babysitters. I'm probably going to end up staying out there. So you'll see me either at the Elks or fucking on the blackjack tables over at MGM.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about this because Sean, this was a couple weeks ago. You had shared something with me on Instagram, a reel. And I'm going to give a little bit of backstory here. So this reel is from I believe this is an apparel company called 419 Outfitters. And the reel is just really, really basic. Like I'll describe the video. It's just like somebody releasing a fish back in the water. It was like, be honest, in your opinion, what's the one thing that's ruining the fishing community? And Sean was like, dude, you got to read the comments here. And I got to tell you guys, I went through the comments and like, holy shitballs, just unhinged at the amount of racism and homophobia. And what else do we have in here? Oh, just like calling out like anybody. It's insane. So Sean had done his due diligence. And he put together some graphics. And Sean, let's go ahead and our jig heads that are in here watching this right now, they can see this Excel sheet over here. But go ahead, Sean, and explain this to me, to our listeners, the way you explained it to me before. Really put a lot of shit into reference.
As we all know, I like statistics. This reel had, at the time I looked at it, had well over 500 comments, and I went wallowing in this muck through about 120 of them. Yeah, just as an update, right now it has 4,700 comments. I'm sorry, 754 comments. That was the likes. 4,000 likes, 754 comments. I got through 120.
Yeah,
and I was done wallowing in the mud with the pigs.
Yep.
So
yeah, smart.
What I did, it was pretty bad. What I did here was, if someone left a comment and it only had one particular focus, I counted that as one, just a single number, easy enough. However, if someone left a comment saying there were 3 things that were causing problems within the fishing community, I gave each one a 0.3 score, and I just added it up when I was all done. So even though I checked out 120 or whatever it was, 115 in that neighborhood comments, and then went from there, it doesn't all add up to 120. And that's not the point. The point is there were some trends here.
The content, yes.
There were some trends. And I'm sure if I went back and finished up the other 600, the trends would continue.
Yeah.
But let's get into this. So again, fishermen, be honest. In your opinion, what's the one thing that is ruining the fishing community? Now, everybody who's listening is probably thinking of one thing. Okay. Now, you know what? We should start there, because a lot of people are illiterate apparently and can't limit it to one thing, and they had to put 3 things or 4 things. So
of course
we'll start there.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point, man.
I'm going to start at the bottom. We're going to go with the fewest answers.
Okay.
And again, I'll give a number. It might be a combined number. It might be a singular number. Doesn't matter. This is the bottom. This is the fewest answers on this. So with 1, Ned rigs.
Yeah.
Do we want to comment after each one? Is Ned rigging really ruining the fishing community?
Dumb. Move on.
Speaking of Ned rigs, I have Ned rig nerd stickers for both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yes.
Look, I'm a little afraid to put it on my car. It might ruin somebody's fucking day.
Me too. I don't want somebody to come and start punching my window.
I know. Now, the next one, again, at the lowest end, tied for the lowest amount of answers, which this is so surprising. We can talk about this. Jet skis.
Oh, my God. The lake louse.
In a couple of ways, because not only do we have to deal with the jet skiers that are out there, right? But now there are jet skis being made for fishing.
Yep.
I mean, this I think is an underrated curse on the fishing community.
Yeah, I think if anything, they missed an opportunity to make this a platform on its own.
Yeah, it really. Okay, all right. I guess there's people around that like them. I don't know. All right, with 1.3, the Googans. we get a shout out to the Googans.
And you know what? Actually, I do have a comment about this because I'm curious what this has to do with. There's are you guys familiar with East what is it? Is it East Philly Fishing on on YouTube? He's from the Philadelphia area, and he's multi-species angler, and he's unbelievably well versed in identifying different species, and he's got some really good stuff. He put out a video. This was just yesterday or the day before, and in this video, I guess he was on a train, and there was a guy who had recognized him, and he comes up and he was like, "Dude," he's like, "I've noticed you haven't put much content out. Like, what's going on?" And he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I've just had a lot going on, like family stuff and everything." He's like, "But I've been fishing more than ever. I caught over 3,000 fish this year." He's like, "It's crazy." He's like, "So I do want to kind of reset some stuff." And the dude left him with this statement. He was like, "Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to your content coming back. We can't let the Googans win," is what he said. What? And he goes, so he goes, I think, he goes, I was a little curious how he was taking it. Like, was he talking about the Guggen squad? Like those guys, we can't let them win? Or is it that we can't use Guggens in like that umbrella term of like jackass fishermen that like have, that are absolutely clueless, don't know what they're doing things, like you might find a rig that's like broken off on the bank or something. You're like, what Guggen did this like that? He goes, and I tend to think he's thinking about that Guggen. I wonder if this is Guggen squad here, or if their issue is with Guggens overall, like that umbrella term.
I did poke on that reel one more time just to see some of the comments, and they were actually Guggen squads. I just wrote Guggens. Gotcha. I only had so much room.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of think that's what they were going with this anyway, in their sense, because they probably don't even realize that Guggen is a word that's even older than the Guggen squad.
So it's funny because if they're saying that it's because the Guggen squad, they're the actual Guggens themselves, because they've actually done a lot of positive things with the fishing community. They can fucking pound sand.
They can eat the cocks.
At what point does someone really ponder this? What is ruining the fishing community? So if I'm out fishing, the word Guggen doesn't even come to mind that they're doing anything negative, unless for some reason someone has dumped 1,000 Guggen bait wrappers in an area. Then I'll be thinking about the Guggens.
Yeah,
but I don't sit there and go, "Wow, I'm really fucking pissed at the Guggens," or I'm at a tournament going, "Wow, great tournament day. Too bad the Guggens exist." Like, what the fuck?
Too bad the Guggens exist.
Here's where I'm going to do the 30,000 foot view here.
Yes.
So the question was, what is ruining, or what is whatever, the fishing community?
Yep.
Right? The fishing community, the reason why the fishing community is being ruined is because of all this on this spreadsheet right here. The fact that, they think that they can single it down to one thing, being like, "Oh, it's this or that or this or that," instead of just everybody just fucking coming together.
Yeah. The divisiveness.
Yeah. Anyway.
Everybody coming together and saying, "Guggens, stop."
Right. Oh. Yeah. Seriously.
All right. Well, let's move past the Guggens. This one, I really agree with. We're still in the first half of this.
We are
this and this in-depth analysis that I did, shaking my head the whole time. With 2, and there is a 5-way tie for 2. We're going to go through each individually. With 2, we'll start with dinks. Yeah, dinks can ruin the fishing community, unless someone else is catching them, and then you're pretty happy that you're not catching the dinks.
Well, I mean, dude, dinks turn into bigger fish. Like, it's gonna happen.
I know. I know. Joe, do you have anything on this? I was a little flabbergasted. Yeah, dinks can ruin a day of fishing, but is it ruining the fishing community? I don't know. I maybe there's a perspective I'm missing. What do you think?
Are you guys having a problem with dinks?
I celebrate.
Yeah. I'm not buying it. Just do your research. Fish better.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Now this one, we're crossing a line on the next one again. Tied at 2.
I know.
We're crossing. We are crossing a line. There at least 2 people, if not more, responded that the biggest problem in the fishing community is. Bobby, do you have a drum roll?
I don't have a drum roll handy. Sorry, man.
God damn it. The number one problem in the fishing community, according to 2 people out of the first 120 sampled, is Joe Biden.
Because I'm proud to be an American.
I guess that was just obvious.
Clearly.
Next, we're on to snagging, which in some states is legal and a preferred method of catching certain species. So I don't know what that's about.
The only place I've ever seen that an issue personally is up on the Salmon River. That's the only place I've seen it.
That's a big deal.
Okay. Issue.
So that's kind of a niche thing, though.
Yep.
I don't know if it's destroying the fishing community.
No.
This next one, again, tied at 2. I take personal umbrage with. Bobby,
Yes.
I know you do too. Eating bass. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. You know,
It seems to me if you do that action, you're probably going to have less of dinks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. If you do it responsibly and you eat the right size fish, you're going to assist that population in being that much healthier.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I do think it's funny that eating bass, dinks, snagging, and Joe Biden all have the same. And this next one does too.
Exactly. And this is another one that goes in the jet ski category. How did more people not say this?
Yeah.
Upside down spinning reels. That will ruin a day of fishing for me if I see somebody, because I don't say anything anymore and I just dwell on it. And I'm like, God damn, this guy's why is it, I'm expecting this guy to get into his car, go home, and his wife's going to say, hey, let's go up to the country club. I want to play a couple games of tennis. And he's like, great. And he gets out on that court and he holds his racket by the webbing.
Yes, exactly.
It's funny. So I could speak to this. So, you guys know my daughter's, she just turned 5 last month. But when we were like a couple years ago, because I've been taking her out from the rip, a couple years ago when she couldn't really figure out she wasn't really figuring out if she was left or right-handed yet. I I look over and I saw that she had flipped it, and I was like, you will not be my daughter anymore. I was like,
you will be swimming home.
I will change the handle, but no, we are not doing that.
Oh my God. All right. Yeah. I'm a little surprised that one's low. That's in with the jet skis. So to recap, with 1, we have Ned. With 1, we have jet skis. 1.3 is a Googans. With 2, we have dinks, snagging, eating bass, Joe Biden, and upside down spinning reels. That's a pretty broad spectrum there. Let's move up. 3.25 people out of my informal analysis here said live scope is the problem with the bass fishing community, or with the fishing community as a whole. Pardon me, I said bass. Thoughts, gentlemen?
It's sizable.
I feel
jump.
like and I hope we end up doing the breakdown of live scope. I think this is a whole nother episode. I think this is just people who have definitely never used it.
Yeah. Well, and looking at these numbers, we have 3.25 right here. And out of about 120, we're looking at this is maybe 4 or 5 people maybe that had mentioned this in some capacity, just a handful of people out of over 120 in this cross section that we analyzed. So is this really as big a problem as some content creators would lead you to believe? Are people really that up in arms over it? Or is it more of,
They are.
I need to
we've
get
seen
clicks.
it. They are up in arms about it, but it's it's a moot fucking point. And I would talk for hours about this.
Yeah, and we are going to have that conversation about technology, and that's coming once all the fucking insanity of the new year gets past us.
Yep.
Yeah,
I actually think that the live scope answer runs hand in hand with the next one, which is costs.
I think you're right there.
The costs were separate. It didn't say cost of live scope. This was completely separate, but I
Just
think
in
that
general, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got to, if you want to keep up with the Joneses, and now it's not buying bags of Senkos.
Yeah.
Now it's not learning how to drop shot and spending money on weights. And now it's, a $3,000 system minimum.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's legit. And everything's gone up in price. And again, with all the complaining about how bad everything's been in this country, 4 out of 120 people said costs.
Well, now you can go back. This works hand in hand with Bidenomics.
Well, I will say this. Last week's episode, Art Slater was talking about how when he bought you guys remember when bass trackers were like, you can get into a boat for 10 grand.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing. You can get into one for 10 grand. And he's like, and now that starting price is around $14.99, which is nearly a 50% markup.
And that's like the fucking basic, like
base
20
level.
horse.
That's exactly it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like now it's increased 50%. 50% that we've seen an increase there now, and that's just shitty. It just sucks all around.
When it comes to cost too, though, so I can kind of argue both sides to this. Yep. If you're trying to keep up and compete, yes, the costs are ridiculous.
Yeah. If you're not,
I will be the first one to admit that. And I've said it a million times, I'm in a position where luckily I'm able to kind of keep up, and my wife fucking hates me for it because last year I don't know if I was in the green or not, and I don't want to look.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just fishing, if you want to fish, you could still keep it cheap. I mean, you can go to Walmart, you can go to these places and get these fucking combos for a pretty cheap price. Like, it is still doable.
Dude, you could get an ugly stick and a shovel and dig up some worms.
Seriously, if
nobody's saying that
it
you
is just
can't
about
fish that
fishing.
way. Yeah,
I think cost is kind of a cop-out answer. If it is about competing, then yes.
Yeah.
I think they're two totally different spectrums.
And actually, I would venture to say that in some ways, if you look at rods and reels, I feel like if you were to look at just rods and reels at let's say $100 each component wise, I think at that $100, you're getting a better reel than you did a decade ago.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that the gap in between that premium level is it's starting to shrink. I think you're getting high quality stuff.
I mean, you guys seen it. You can still get rod and reel combos that are gonna catch you fucking fish.
Yeah.
And it'll probably last longer than some of the shit we spend all this money on.
Or as long.
Walmart.
Yeah, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. There you go. Costs.
It's fucking costs.
The bandwagon.
Up next. Hold on, Joey. Let me roll here.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry, Sean.
Let me moderate.
Sorry, Daddy.
I put a lot. I only want to moderate because I fucking burned my own eyes out looking at this shit for over an hour. All right, it was awful.
You don't understand, Joe. He calls me up. He's like, I can't believe what I'm fucking uncovering here. He's sitting at the table with not a 20 ounce, a 1 liter bottle of Diet Coke, pouring shots every time he puts a statistic down. He's throwing them back. He's like, I am drinking so much Red 40.
He's got the fucking board in his house with all the red strings and shit.
He looks like Charlie Day and like. All I ever see here is Pepe Sylvia. He's over here. He's over here.
I'm stepping outside to get jiggled every fucking 10 minutes just to let my nerves in check. Oh, by the way, let's jump in on that. So Jigglers apparently is out of season. Bobby, I'll let you know that. So I've moved over to another Theory product as recommended by my Theory, what do we call them? Cannabatician?
Bud tender.
Bud tender?
Yeah, bud tender. Called? Yeah.
All right. My bud tender recommended something called Velvet Glove. And I guinea pigged it last night when I got home after some things I had to go going on family wise. Yep. And very pleased with Velvet Glove.
That's good.
Runs hand in hand with Jigglers. Yeah, it was really, really nice experience. And I slept for over 8 hours last night.
I love that.
Yes,
I love that.
Good times. Now, next up.
Yes.
We have crossed the Rubicon. We're over halfway done. Again, with 425, Joe just mentioned bandwagoning.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean with fishing?
Okay. All right. So I'm not the only one. Like I need some context with this one.
I think the derogatory comments were basically based on people jumping on the fishing bandwagon during the pandemic, which this is just, I don't even get this. It's just a form of gatekeeping.
That fucking helped the sport.
I know.
That's one positive thing that came out of COVID. It fucking helped our sport.
Yep.
Yeah, it grow the sport, except when people are, participating in the sport. That's not good, apparently. I don't. Again, my eyes were hurting after reading this shit. So bandwagoning, we want to grow the sport, but we also don't want to grow the sport because then other people are going to be fishing. I don't know what the fuck.
Right.
It's almost like when that person discovers a band that they really like on an independent label, and they're like, "I love this band. I've seen them play. When they've come into my town every single time for the last 2 albums that they've done. Every show has been great, and they're on the street team to help promote." And then they get mad when that that band blows up and gets popular.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing, and it's stupid.
Gatekeeping. That's all this was.
Yeah, 100%.
So, moving on. This one was a little interesting, and I'll explain what my note here means. Mm-hmm. So the next category with 4.3 responses was underappreciated species, and most of them the tone took was people killing underappreciated species. And I actually had one of those answers. I didn't feel like putting it by itself.
Yep.
Was because it wrapped into that. It was killing underappreciated species with bows.
Oh,
with bow fishing.
Fishing.
Like, I mean, again, is that tearing the community apart? It seems like a niche thing.
I think that, I guess I would have to have exact species that they're speaking of.
Well, I could tell you one that would pop to mind for us would be chain pickerel. Everybody fucking hates chain pickerel. They're native. And how many times do you hear the folks, around us, kill it, throw it up on the fucking shore? No, how about you're an asshole?
Yeah, no. So you're 100%, 100%. I do know people that say that. I obviously don't do that myself. I even if it was like an invasive species, I would have a tough time with that. But so you're 100% right. Okay.
It's weird.
Yep.
I think when it comes to the underappreciated species, and even in the bow fishing sort of corner, I've seen, it's not something necessarily that I'm going to run out and do, but I've seen folks that are like, yep, we're going to go bow fishing for snakehead. Invasives makes sense. They want to remove them from that body of water.
Asian carp or something.
That's another one. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shit, you don't even have to freaking bring out a bow for that. They'll just jump on the boat. Some of those. But I think where people would probably lose their shit and you would find a double standard. You guys remember that conversation we had with Alex Rudd about the Alabama spot?
Yeah.
That's overfished. And if it became a situation where maybe you had bow fishing guides that were in that area, they're like, yeah, we're going to go and take out some of these fish, Right. And that's the plan. If people would lose their minds because it's somehow more desirable.
And you guys might be able to speak more to this, especially Sean, because it's not something I know much about. Mm-hmm. Do we have really a bow fishing, I guess, community up here? And if so, what is their targeted species with it?
So up here, if we include all of New England, I've seen plenty of boats at Champlain. Mm-hmm. And I think I've seen them. Now, you know what? Most of the stuff's been at Champlain. Most of the bow fishing, and they go out and they go for bowfin and they go for pike.
Yeah.
And gar. So, I mean, generally it sucks, but bowfin and gar are just considered trash fish everywhere.
Yeah. They are.
And they're really not. I mean, I would rather fight any day of the week, any day, any minute, any hour, name the time. If you put a 6-pound largemouth and a 6-pound bowfin at the end of my rod, I'd rather fight the bowfin.
Yeah, more fun.
I would in a heartbeat.
Sure.
I love that fish. They fight harder. They fight harder than smallmouth.
Yeah.
They're insane.
even if you get if we're going to do that comparison, I mean, even, I guess even like a 5 pound fucking bass versus a 5 pound pike here, you know what I mean? Like
pike, it's funny because pike, you got to let play out. You just kind of don't do much.
Yeah.
Bowfin, you're holding on for dear life.
I've never caught a bowfin.
Oh my God.
Dude. I've never caught one.
I mean, think of it this way. Like, I don't know if you guys remember that tournament I was in the spring where I went up to upstate New York and I did hook into a bowfin. Mm-hmm. And that thing dragged me around for 15 minutes and wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fight. And then it shook the hook. And I was like, that was, I think, on a practice day. And I was more upset about that than the way I finished in the tournament. I'm still upset about that bowfin. I don't care about the tournament. I knew the way that was going to go.
I did catch, and I didn't really realize this until later in life. I did catch a snakehead when I lived in Florida back in the day.
Oh, really?
And I think that was even before it was like really like considered invasive or there. I literally think it was like in the beginning stages of it. I just remember I lived on a canal when I lived in Florida, and so me and a buddy of mine would go fishing there all the time. And I remember catching a fish and we didn't know what the fuck it was. It was kind of, we're kids, so we just cut the line because we saw it. We're like, this thing's fucked up. Threw it back. And like, as I got older and I was like, and I could still be wrong, but now I'm like, that was definitely what I caught that day.
You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing that Joe caught the first snakehead that somebody...
I'm patient zero.
Absolutely. Joe caught the very...
You're the Reese's
released
monkey.
it. Yeah. He sent a... Wow, nice job, Joe.
I threw that thing right back, and that now it's I'm patient. What was that movie? Outbreak with the monkey.
Yes,
you're the Reese's monkey in Outbreak. Way to go!
He had the opportunity to end the entire invasive life of the snake of the northern snakehead, and he was just like, "Oh, gross."
What is this thing? I don't know. We'll catch and release. Plop.
Here I am. Think I'm doing the right thing as a fucking little asshole kid.
This thing looks pregnant. Throw it back. All right. Moving on from underappreciated species. I kind of agree with that one.
Yeah.
As long as, people aren't wantonly killing anything, I'm good. Next up with 5.
Big one.
So big one, and I'm kind of underrated, underrepresented.
I think this one's underrated.
Big time.
Karens. Now, we're going to talk about a couple different kinds of Karens. There are the Karens that come out on a dock and think that public water is private.
Yep. Yeah.
And then there's people who get labeled as Karens because they think private water is private.
Yeah.
So that is a split. There's kind of a difference there. Obviously, if you're fishing on a lake, you got to be courteous to someone's shit because they did pay a lot of money to it for a dock. Try not to hit it. Apologize. Work with a homeowner whenever you can.
Yeah.
That will avoid the Karening. But you also don't know what the last fisherman that came through said to that homeowner.
Yeah, they might have a bad taste in their mouth already.
Yeah. As far as the private stuff, look. Don't break any laws when you fish. Buy a license. Don't fish anywhere illegal that you can't fish if there's no access. I live that. And again, I always think about, in our state, most of the towns require you to maintain on your property that you pay taxes on. You have to maintain, 4 feet in from the street? 3 feet?
Something like that. It fluctuates, I think, city to town.
Yeah, there's a small strip of land that you have to maintain, whether it's a sidewalk.
Yep.
I have a fucking 20-foot sidewalk that I just had to snow blow today that goes to my driveway.
Yeah.
It goes nowhere. There's no other sidewalk on the other side of my driveway. I have to maintain that. I bitched into the town and they said, no, just keep it clean. So I do. Now, and that's public land. So if there's a bus stop there, that's land that I have to maintain, but it's being used by the public.
So, Sean, let me ask you this, Sean.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever asked you this question. And so you being a homeowner on water, essentially, I know you live on private water, but for conversation's sake, let's say it was public. Yep. What are your thoughts on fishing if you have fishermen fishing around your dock? Not like bouncing fucking baits off your dock is shit, but fishing around
my only concern is me going out on my dock and getting a hook in my foot.
Right. So not fishing on the dock.
I don't care. I don't. No, I'm fine. As long as nobody leaves a hook on my dock.
Sure.
I don't care about it now. But getting back to my analogy, so we all have that area we have to maintain for our towns. That's considered public land, even though it's on our property, right?
Exactly.
So if it's public, I can go on it, right?
Yeah.
So why would someone be upset if I decided to take some plastic golf balls and a 7-iron and just practice my chipping on that public land that they have to maintain?
Land, yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus what I have to deal with is I live on private water where there's no public access, none. And I have to pay to maintain certain things, the infrastructure of the dam, for instance. Shit's not cheap. And I get pissed off when I have people telling me, including in one case, it was great. Even a state official one time gave me a line of shit. And I called the cops on him, and he was escorted out. I get a little pissed at that because they're not paying for it. You know what I mean? I don't go over to somebody's lawn and start practicing my chipping on their fucking lawn because I can access it. You know, I just don't do that.
I guess so with like private waters, obviously. I mean, so public water, state water, you know, obviously, allegedly all of our like fees for our fishing license, all stuff, they go to the maintenance and maintaining of those lakes and stuff. So my assumption, Sean, is that you guys, for your private water, you guys don't see any of that.
No.
Oh, we don't see shit. We maintain the whole thing.
So that makes sense. And I am totally 100% on board with that.
That's exactly it. Simple economics, you know?
Like there is no way to fish the water I live on without breaking a law. You have to trespass.
Uh-huh.
If you're not, invited by someone. So as far as the other type of Karen, again, it always comes down to communication. If someone doesn't want you fishing around their dock, stop and ask why. Hey, just curious, like put your rod down, say, hey, what's going on? Communicate. Like no one does that anymore. People are nowadays people are more likely to scream and swear and yell and throw shit in the water to fuck you up for fishing and do this and do that.
Yeah. Just have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, this is legal. And then call the cops on them if they're really being that much of a fucking Karen.
I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people will say like, oh, this person's a Karen for X, Y, and Z or something like that. And I feel like they're throwing that out there primarily to get a reaction, out of the person that they're it's ignorant. You know what I mean? A Karen, in my opinion, right, is somebody who is approaching a situation with a preset agenda. Regardless of the professionalism, regardless of the interaction, regardless of what gets said, anything, they're coming into it with an agenda. So case in point, let's use that typical Karen kind of like storyline where you see a Karen in like a restaurant situation. Something isn't going her way. There is nothing that server or manager is going to do that's going to make her reconsider her position or her opinion or have any kind of introspective look on what she's doing at all. It's all going to end up being that she just is frustrated and it needs to take somebody out. You know what I mean? And there's already a predetermined agenda there. And I think that's the thing that makes that can ruin fishing because you could be in a public area and this Karen has a hair across her ass, maybe walking in a park. You're fishing a public body of water that's in a park where there's a walking trail access that's nearby. And you have a situation where you have an involvement with a Karen. This is probably something where it's like, I saw a fisherman one time, I didn't like this, so now you're that guy. You know what I mean? And it's almost like wrongfully projecting an agenda or something on somebody else. It's like, what the fuck are you even doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I do see that could certainly be ruining fishing for especially like a young angler that's like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I'll just go fucking play video games instead.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go smoke meth.
So I'm going to send you, Sean, I don't think you do the TikTok thing. I know, Bobby, I know you do. There's actually a page on there. It's a woman who lives on, it's basically a river that goes out to a larger body of water. And she's been recording all the bullshit she's been dealing with her neighbor, and on like saying that her neighbor saying that she owns.
Yeah, my wife showed it to me.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking. Oh man, I feel bad for that lady, man. I'll have to send it to Bobby. It's just like the shit this lady deals with is ridiculous.
Just craziness.
Yeah.
Huh.
So up next, this one, I think Bobby, you can probably speak more about this one with spot burning and apps. Yeah. Got six nods here. I think apps, I don't know. It was more apps with the spot burning, but I think where I saw the most damage with quote unquote spot burning is posting pictures of where you catch fish on Facebook.
Yep.
I saw that. I think, man, I think people were, I was coming across sites that were getting blown up. I mean, as early as like 2007, 2008, where someone would post, hey, I caught a huge pike at this part of a river. And the next thing you know, you can't get there for ice fishing or whatever. Apps, I don't use as much. I know you do, Bobby. So, I mean, if you want to jump in on this.
So the thing is with apps is like, this is like a double-edged sword. Like on the one end, you have the use of the apps, like, and when I say apps, the one I'm thinking about immediately is FishBrain. That's the big one. Apps like Angler, they're out there as well. There's other apps that you can use to track your catches and things like that, and they're all very useful. And most of them have the ability to set your stuff to private. Now, there's the one hand where again, like if you're looking to find fishing spots, there are people who are going to post things publicly, but who's to say that angler has the experience that you want to make any kind of investment in, like tracing their steps? Do they actually know anything? Do they luck into a good fish? I mean, who knows? Are you going to go through their entire profile and figure all this stuff out? The other side of it too is that there are folks that will tweak their data and put different fish in the wrong bodies of water intentionally, just to kind of I guess maybe they don't realize they could just set it private and not bother. So like if you're somebody that's utilizing apps, and when I say apps, I'm not talking about like Google Earth or anything like that, because honestly, I think something like Google Earth or just opening the technology, that could have an effect on fishing. Do I think it's ruining fishing? I don't know that it's ruining it. But when you look at, a body of water and you're like, okay, so what are people catching here? And you're like, a good example is like, you look at a lake or a pond and you're like, oh, there's smallmouth in here. I didn't know that. And somebody just put a smallmouth in there, either ignorantly, like they mis-ID'd their fish when they caught it, or, in FishBrain situation, actually it will ID them for you automatically in most cases, unless the picture is hot garbage. Or did somebody enter a species in there intentionally just trying to fuck with it? You know what I mean? So it's like
trolling.
Yeah, you got to kind of like take that information you get from apps with a grain of salt and try to like piece things together. Like the best thing from a lot of those fishing apps that you're going to get are like the topo maps, things like that. Like Omnia's app is a good example. There are no spots. It's just, I use this bait, I caught this fish, it was in this body of water, figure it out. There's a comment section there where the author can write some additional stuff and give some information. Like I've written some reports and I'm like, I was fishing weed edges, or I was fishing, big boulders, nearby in deep water, something like that. And it's like, you might get some information like that, but it's not lighting anything up geographically. But also with Omnia, you've got different layers that you can look at these maps. So you can look at bottom composition. You can look at a standard topographical, like you would from, what the hell am I thinking of?
Navionics.
Navionics, yes, exactly, because it partners right with it, like stuff like that. So you can look at the structure, I mean, is technology, that's really what I think it is. It's not just apps, I think spot burning is one thing. I think technically the fucking newspaper would fucking spot burn you. You know?
Yeah.
Somebody catches a record fish and it shows up on, your local news station or in the paper, and people would be looking at that picture like, I know what that smoke tower is. I know exactly where that is. You know what I mean? So It's like, did technology make it a little bit easier? Yeah, I guess. But like, you're always going to have friends that are going to share their spot with friends, and those friends that fuck up the cycle. They can't figure out puff, puff, pass,
Yeah. Yeah. And what I think a lot of anglers don't take into account is the differences between anglers.
Yeah.
And just to have every lake has fish in it doesn't mean you're going to catch them. So I don't put a lot of stock in it. Again, like, when Fish Brain first popped up, and I'm not saying anything, negative about Fish Brain. I have my Excel sheet. I've been using it for years. It's fine. It works for me, and I'm good with it. But I did get a call from a friend. I think we talked about this on the show a couple of years ago, where he was all up in arms. He's got a lake. He likes to fish. It was relatively quiet until a few years ago.
Yep.
But that was a change in access, not a change in anything else. And he was going crazy. Hey, did you see this picture on Fish Brain? This dude caught a 20-pound pike.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I said, there's no pike in there. Like, what are you talking about? He said, it says it right here in Fish Brain. And then I looked at the picture.
Yeah.
And this particular lake does not have gigantic white marble boulders.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And prominently in the picture, 2 gigantic white boulders. And I said, dude, it's just somebody trolling. Don't get beat up about it. Like, he goes, people do that? I go, yeah. So, I mean, that's something.
Oh, definitely.
That's out there too. But yeah, I mean, as far as apps go, I don't touch them. As far as spot burning, I mean, who are you burning it on, yourself or everybody else? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I just don't tell people much what I'm catching and when. That's the way to deal with that.
Yep.
Moving up the line here with 6.3 people pissed off about YouTube and social media.
Yeah.
That encompasses a lot, I think.
It does.
You can throw spot burning in there too. You can throw people with random fucking clickbait opinions on there. There's a lot of things you can put in there. People that are out there looking to make a video instead of just going out and fishing to relax. I mean, that can piss some people off.
For sure it can.
I don't know if it's ruining the community. I don't think the majority of people are doing that. What do you think? I mean, you guys know more about the YouTube.
I think that could be a whole nother bracket on its own.
All by itself, yeah.
Sure, maybe there's like some spot burning bullshit, but listen, I'll be the first one to say that, and not the first one to say, I've said this a million times. YouTube has been extremely beneficial for our sport. So I'm not going to dog anything about YouTube and our sport, because it is a big reason why it's still holding on. So I'm not going to talk it. Sure, you might have these fucking jamokes who are, with their fucking 10 followers that are just doing spot burning and doing stupid shit. But in a whole, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, more so than Facebook, they've been exponentially, positive for our sport in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think you got to weigh, what's the positive aspect then versus the negative aspect. And I think you're going to see this come up in our conversation on our tier list too, on the show on Saturday, because, I think the positive contributions that have come from YouTube as far as education and the good quality content that's out there. I mean, every angler, at least the majority of anglers that are out there at some point or another, needed to learn something about either maybe a piece of equipment, a specific bait, a presentation, a technique, and has reached out, and looked on some type of digital content to learn more about that. It might be, I'm going and I'm fishing this other part of the country that I've never fished before. Let me go and look at stuff in that area. I really suck at using a jerkbait. What am I doing wrong? Let me go and look and find out as much content about this. So whether it's YouTube, whether it's a podcast, whether it's social media accounts that you're following to kind of get some feedback and information of, maybe you're searching the hashtag jerkbaits, Megabass Vision 110, and you're looking for all that information, trying to piece together whatever it is that you can figure out based on content there. That's like a good example if you like your platform that you're using is Instagram, something along that. But like so many people, like to the point where like YouTube is called YouTube University, casually.
Yep.
It's just like, it's just one of those things. I mean, shit, I've had to do like when I changed out the taillights on my truck, right? When I got the replacements, I downloaded, I looked at 2 different videos on YouTube and I was like, got it, done. Went out and did it. It was easy, super easy. But I wanted to know what the fuck I was doing before I went over to my $50,000 truck and was just like, hey, I got a screwdriver, man. Let's go ahead and put this shit together.
I got nice LEDs. Take a look at these.
All right.
Derp.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's what it gets down to with YouTube. I think that you got to look at what the positives are, what the negatives are. Look at the divisiveness. Look at the way that like you have people losing their shit over forward-facing sonar, or sponsorship money, So you take the good, you take the bad.
You take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
You and I get that. I don't think
very
anybody
few
else
of our
that listens
listeners are going to get that at all. Joe's like, what?
The fuck are you talking about?
Slightly.
All right. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Next up, this one actually went in a different direction than the Karens, but with 11, private water. And most of the comments were not against HOAs and et cetera, but most of the comments were against towns for having water that you can't
access.
In particular, we can think of numerous waters around here that are used as drinking waters you can't touch.
There's water right in my city, 1, 2, 3 reservoirs that I can't go to.
Yeah. I can think of, aside from those, probably another 3, if not more, and their watersheds we can't touch, and it's fine. We got so much. There's plenty of water around.
Yeah, I
know it's different in the Midwest where you don't have all these different waters, or in the South or whatever, different parts of the country. I get that. I don't know what to say. If there's ways to get laws changed. We still live in a democracy.
Yeah, there's things you can
pursue them. Yeah, pursue the law changes. If it's too much work, then stop bitching. I don't know what to tell you.
Or just get really good at night fishing and go in, creep like a ninja.
Yeah, but risk and reward.
Risk and reward.
Are those untouched dinks worth, a $500 fine? I don't know. You decide.
Yeah. Hey.
Yep. Next up, I actually think this one ranked a little low.
I agree.
This is, I would probably put this first, because this is one of those things that when this happens, it ruins a lot. It makes people step away from fishing.
Yeah.
And it's the infighting within the community. It only got 12 answers, or 12 responses. Yep. I think this is way higher. I'll be quite honest. This is why I stepped away from fishing for a month and a half.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal with other fishermen. And the way our community was behaving, Yeah. And I'm not going to be doing that and haven't since going forward. It's fucked up. There's a lot of delusion out there in the competitive world about
definitely
what it means, what the end goals are between people, and a lot of fishermen, and I'm not going to say I'm innocent, but a lot of fishermen shit on other fishermen. That guy sucks. Fuck him.
And and that's shitty, because that's not like stupid bullshit on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's shit that like you overhear at the ramp.
Yeah.
And that's even worse, I think. Like if you've got a social media influencer that is all, tied into one brand of product or something, and then you have another influencer that's tied in on something else. There's infighting there, but also at the same time, some of that is just perception. You know what I mean? So it's not really as critical and crazy as people think. It's because people can't like both Coke and Pepsi. Just they can't fucking do it. Like, it's a big deal. I like both. I think they taste completely different. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like people, they just can't. Like, they got to pick a team. They got to pick a side. Us versus them, not all of it. And you can have all of it. You know what I mean? So, like, a lot of that, I think, is just naturally kind of bred into humans in a lot of ways. And you'll see some of that, I think, in social media, but I feel like it's worse in the competitive world because of the in-person nature and some of the additional BS, and the drama that can be carried out. And when it's online or something, you're just like, you can brush it off. But when it's like, you hear that shit at the ramp, at the awards ceremony, and you're like, wow, everybody gets on this fucking one dude's fucking deal. What's going on over here? And it can It can sort of like preload your own opinions before you actually have a chance to make your own opinions sometimes. And that's shitty.
Yeah. And the further I got into the competitive world, the further I realized that it's just a fucking plastering of shitting on each other. That's all it is.
Titties.
Somebody does real well. Nice job. But I lost the fish. So you really suck.
Yeah, exactly.
It's shit like that. It is awful.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, competitive people look down on non-competitive people.
Yeah, they do.
Some tournament directors, I've unfortunately come across this. Some tournament directors will fleece the people that they're supposed to be regulating for money. Mm-hmm. I've seen that shit.
Yep.
Some cheating. It just, I don't understand where a lot of folks will say we're trying to grow the sport, but and it gets back to the bandwagoning. We'll shit on people that are involved in the sport at any level.
Yeah. It's that same backward ass thinking,
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, welcome to the world of fishing, folks.
We're backward ass fucks.
I would put that a lot higher. I think infighting is more of a major problem. At least I see it.
I think infighting actually would come in number 2 based on this list for me. It would probably come in number 2. Yeah, there's one that's a gleaming number 1.
Okay. Well, you're talking about the surprise answer that I was a little upset with.
I think so. This is the next one that we're talking about. Yes.
No, but I think we can have a discussion about this because I don't feel that's the highest one. So the next one up with 14.1 again.
Yep.
Divvied up answers was littering.
Yeah. Now, I think that should be number 1.
I don't because I don't think that it's all fishermen doing it.
It's not. The problem is there's the perception that it's fishermen that are doing it. And that's the issue. It's that people, they think that fishermen don't give a fuck or they're lazy or slobs and they show up to a body of water and they have a bad day and they leave a bunch of trash behind. When, we all know, and we've done it ourselves, have carried a trash bag in with us so that we can collect some stuff. There have been days on the water where I haven't put a single fish in my net, but I put a few floating beer cans.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, on the other hand, the amount of big garbage that fishermen are not bringing like a tire to a river.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
There's people that throw garbage bags into the river just to be assholes, and then it should encompass this, but like the amount of pollution that goes into our water from factories, from businesses, shit like that. I mean,
industrial
it's
shit,
all part of it.
PCBs, all that shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think with the littering, the low scale littering, obviously it's important. I'm not trying to downgrade that.
Yeah. No.
I just think that pertaining to the question, I don't think it's as high up as really infighting. I mean, if you see litter, like you just said, you and I, Joe, we all bring garbage out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not lugging tires out.
Yeah. Right. And I'm not bent out of shape.
Yeah.
From taking some garbage out. I might make one comment like, hey, some asshole left fucking an empty pack of Senkos and a fucking foam container for rubber worms or for night crawlers.
Yep.
Yeah, I pulled that out. I might say one thing about it, but normally it's not gonna fucking ruin my face in the community or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, that infighting, that's fucking shit.
So the littering thing where I've seen it is and this is, I guess I'm being a little bit biased here, but boat kayak guys, they're not littering. Boat and kayak guys aren't littering.
Yeah.
It's when you see it at like the hot bank angling spots.
Yeah, that's really
where
bad.
Anytime I bring my kids out where we just hit the bank, I have a few spots that they're not secrets. A bunch of people bank fish these spots. Yep. And those are the ones that are, I always bring a bag. I mean, you fished one of them with me, Bobby. And it's every single time it's fucking, it's disgusting. It pisses me off, but yeah, that is what it is.
That's tough. And I think that and maybe Sean, you're right. Like, it's not ruining the fishing community. I think the fear is that like, you're going to have situations where you might have access on a body of water. And then if the littering gets so bad, you might not, whether that's from like a level of like, a toxic level, like maybe the water isn't safe for humans to be around and they're not able to fish there, or the fishing just dies completely because there's like just shit in the water and it can't sustain life any further. Or you get folks that are just like, we're fucking sick of it. We're putting up, no trespassing everywhere, no fishing, nothing, blah, 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 blah. And then it kind of ruins it. But yeah, I could see where you would say like, so yeah, maybe for me, littering and infighting could be interchangeable, like something like that. I definitely think it's an issue, but yeah, is it tearing the community apart? Yeah, not really.
Yeah, I mean, it could lead to infighting. I guess. Again, I'm not trying to minimize the amount of garbage being thrown in the water. I don't like that.
There's too much.
I just think pertaining to this question that was asked by this fucking reel. Up next, here was a surprise answer, and this is when I called you, and I was just absolutely disgusted because I guess it's the internet, and if you get a group of people together on the internet, at some point, these pieces of shit are just going to get involved, especially when there's a large number of answers and eyes on a question. There were at least 20 racist or bigoted answers.
Yes.
It had nothing to do, very little to do, or blaming a specific ethnicity for the ruining the fishing community. So when we were talking on the phone, I think I mentioned 3 ethnicities that were mentioned as ruining fishing, basically being blamed for overfishing. I think that is, I mean, it's painting with a broad brush. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
So here, and this is the only way I could possibly maybe explain it, is you do have certain ethnicities that, will go out there and, they could, for instance, like a bucket brigade or something like that. And they go out and they do fish, and they probably do take more than they're supposed to, but they're probably not, this isn't their first country. They're probably, immigrants, and, they're used to kind of the old ways. And guess what? Those people aren't wasting those fish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. They're definitely not wasting them.
I think it's more of just like a cultural, misunderstanding. But yeah, and that's kind of what I think it's a lack of knowledge with rules and regulations. It's not a free pass by any means with the rules and regulations of your area, your state. I think it's more of like lack of education.
Lots of times I think that's what it is it's an assumption. Like, there's water here, there's fish, I'm going to take them. You know what I mean? And they, maybe look at it as like, I'm not going to even look into this because I don't want to know.
Yeah. But it's just, you don't have to be all racist about it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I almost went through some of the comments and I was like, I don't want those words coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. Well, where I was getting a little disgusted was just playing off what you said. We're giving everybody the benefit of a doubt that they're not poaching, although there are poachers out there that know damn well they're not supposed to keep
100%.
Right? There was a lot of folks took the opportunity to accuse the non-binary community of ruining fishing, which is exactly. It was just, hey, we're gonna bash everybody here. That's where I was going. All right, this is. Yeah, I've just stuck my head in a fucking toilet.
It was it was a little ridiculous in that sense because they were just flying from like all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was just bananas. And it was like in that situation, like they weren't talking about, oh, well, they have X amount of lines or they're taking everything that they catch or whatever. Like this was very much like, I have another agenda and I'm going to go ahead and fucking
100%.
share it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I mean, if they could have explained it like I did, you know, and they didn't. They were just like fucking went straight to somewhere they shouldn't have.
These guys, or maybe gals too, I don't know, these folks that were kind enough to contribute their opinion on this said, looky here, we got us a big post with a lot of comments. Let me grab my robes and put in my 2 cents.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's crazy, man. It was like the fact that it came up as one of the top 2 fucking elements that were in there.
Yeah.
Like says
barely winning out.
Yeah.
But you know what the sad part is, and granted, you know, obviously my views on society are probably different from Sean's, probably different from Bobby's. We all have different opinions. We all live our lives in different ways. However, it should never go there, I guess. That just shows the fucking disconnect. You know what I mean? Like it's don't be an ass. That's one thing. Just don't be an asshole.
That's pretty much
have to go there.
That's pretty much at the end of the day. That's the best lesson you can take away from anything. Don't be an asshole. This is where I was going with that, and I lost. I brought it back in at the end, and I did well. But where I was going with that is the unfortunate thing is, look at any post, any big post in any type of topic, subject, anything. Yeah,
and that's a big thing in all of them.
You're right. You're not wrong with that, man.
Yep.
There's going to be people that chime in.
It's just unfortunate that it hit us. You know what I mean? And granted, like, and we're not going to get to the politics of it, but you know, I grew up in a field where I fucking work with people of all kinds of races, ethnicities. Sure. I'm friends with them all. You know what I mean? So it's like that one hurts a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough one, dude. And I was amazed, like when you did the math, Sean, and it was this close. It was this close.
How fucked up is that?
What the fuck?
So, again, second place, racist and bigot comments with 20 answers and 20.8 answers. The winner of this steaming pile of shit that I waded up to neck deep, overfishing.
Yeah. Overfishing.
Which I agree with. I mean, I think number one should be the infighting. That ruins it most. But overfishing, I don't know. I could be on both sides of the fucking fence on this one, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in on this one. So when it comes to commercial fishing, I think we really fucked up as a country in the way we have done that, to the point now where we have fucked it up so much that now they're putting these crazy regulations to where it's like, oh, now we have to cut it by this much percent or whatever, and it's just astronomical because we didn't properly maintain it the way we could. But that's like the commercial end. When it comes to like localized like fishing and stuff, I will say one thing, and this is coming from me as a tournament angler, and I'll probably get shit for it from the listeners or whatever. I don't care. There are way too many tournaments on bodies of water.
Certain ones, I'd agree with you.
Yep. Like yes. Yep. Like, let's just say Massachusetts, for instance. Like, obviously, there's only so many bodies of water that are fruitful enough for a tournament. You know what I mean? So everybody fucking has tournament. There's, 2 tournaments there every weekend. And then you go down south, and I don't know, Bobby, I know you've watched, and Sean, you have too, like the Bass Pros and stuff. All right, Bass Pros, the Bassmaster, MLF. They don't mention it very often, but every once in a while, I almost think it's like a slip up to where a commentator or an angler will mention like, oh, there's 4 other tournaments going on today. So you'll have, granted, they're bigger bodies of water, so you might have fucking 100 to 400 boats in tournaments on any given day on these big bodies of waters.
Definitely.
And, and we get back to where the fish stress, all that shit that we've talked about a million times. So I'm not going to go down that road. So yeah, I could see that as overfishing as a aspect of overfishing, but I guess I would need a little bit more context, I guess, into what is considered overfishing.
There was a lot of different answers on that. It wasn't just tournaments. It was people taking, like Bobby just said, having 15 lines out and taking buckets of fish home.
Right,
it was
tournament stuff and shit like that.
It was all over the place.
But which is crazy because like our sport is so, I mean, it's growing now, but it's like in the smallest, it's like the smallest it's probably
ever been
in modern times. You know what I mean? Or at least a few years ago, but I guess, pre-COVID, you know what I mean? And,
oh yeah.
So yeah, the commercial aspect of it, because I did a little bit. I've read up on this a bit. The commercial aspect of fishing is fucked up because of how much we do eat or and whatever.
Yeah. Ship fish all over the country.
Yeah. So we were bad stewards in the way we maintain that. And now it's like, I mean, look at like the slot limits and shit for all the fish now.
Look at the seasons for like cod,
stripers, cod, pollock, all that shit. Like I remember as a kid, growing up back when I used to deep sea fish before I puked my brains out the entire time.
Yep.
I mean, we would fucking, there was no cod. I mean, we would fill the fucking, the big bait container, the big, container they have there and then just start throwing them on the deck. You know what I mean? It's like, so I was, I guess I was part of that back in the day, because they were just like, fuck it, just take what you need. And,
and that's the thing at that time, when you're out on, a charter or something like that, you're not thinking about the overall, but when you've got such and such corporation that's shipping off X amount tons of pollock to be frozen and end up in grocery stores everywhere, you're like, wow, shit, that's crazy. When Mayor McCheese is on the SS fillet of fish and he's like, yo, we got sandwiches to make, bitch.
We got to load them up, baby. I got tartar sauce for days. I don't know why I grabbed my tits there.
But I did.
Yeah. So I guess us as a society, not just in our country, but globally, we fucked up without maintaining, and now we're just doing damage control.
Yeah, globally. A lot of it, and trying to backpedal and try to fix the problem that we created, which is common and to some element is noble. Like you're trying to do the right thing.
Me as an angler, I respect it.
Yeah.
Me as a consumer, it sucks because what's that do? Drives the fucking prices up
through the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. It's true.
That's all I got to say about that.
So, I think that puts a bow on the steaming pile of Christmas dog shit that I went through, and
I just want to share this last bit of information about this post. 419 Outfitters is a religious apparel, fishing apparel organization. Just for what it's worth, they're a Christian apparel company where all of this garbage was all over.
They probably saw some of those comments. They're like, no, delete.
Oh no.
I'm glad you brought that up, Joe. You guys know something else happened this week that hasn't happened in a little while. Bobby Roast Beef got a DM from somebody trying to do some networking or get some sponsorship, work out a little collab. A guy named Kyle had started following us on Instagram for all of 6 minutes. And Kyle was very enthusiastic when he DM'd me asking if we could provide some products so that he could feature them on his Instagram. And I believe on his Instagram at the time, he had something like 105 followers. This would have been of much value to Jigs and Bigs. Right. So I said, okay. I said, well, what products specifically? I kind of prodded and because I had time. Might have been on the shitter. I had time. And I'm like, oh, well, what products do you like specifically? He was like, of course, he was like,
all of them, bro. I like them all. I'm not picky at all. Take a look at my profile, brother. All I do is fish, brother.
He obviously didn't realize we're a podcast, not a retailer, but
that's what I followed it up with. I was like, well, I go, I said, well, just take whatever pick you want. And he was like, well, how about this item? And he went onto a retailer and grabbed a screenshot and sent it to me. And I was like, cool, go ahead and just use that picture. And he was like, question mark. And I was like, we are a podcast. We don't actually sell any products. We don't create anything. Like, we're not a bait company at all. I was like, so there's really, I don't understand what it is that you're asking for primarily.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I was like, I couldn't let it go. I had to share the goodness. So what I did was I did a screen record on my phone, scrolling through the chat. And then I went over to the likes and I went over to my notifications where it said that he started following us 6 minutes ago, and I circled it and I made a reel. Dude, the best thing happened. Kyle messaged me and was like,
nice reel, dude.
He did unfollow us. which
it was probably some like 11-year-old kid who's like legitimately trying to.
No, I mean, I looked at the profile. Kyle seemed like he was at least in his 20s. Either maybe just really excited about his new girlfriend, or maybe they're engaged or newly married or something. I don't know.
Probably not listening to this episode.
Probably not. Probably unaware. But it was just a while, and it happened to be at the perfect time. I was like, fuck, I got to dive in on this.
Yeah.
I figured the response was great. People love that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you said you had shared something for some reason, just came into my head for no reason. I was going to ask you, shared what? The biscuit? And you would be like, the biscuit you ask? And I'd be like, the biscuit.
Taste the goodness
of the biscuit. This is where my mind's at today.
Do you guys know that group, Toasters and Moose, there's a full feature-length movie on them? Holly and I watched this one night. I watched it once on my own, and I was like, what? Are you serious? And then I bookmarked it so I could go back to it. I was like, honey, you've got to see this shit. Unbelievable. I love that song's going to be in my fucking head all night. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it.
Well, it jumped into mind when you said you shared something. You obviously shared the biscuit with Kyle.
I did share the biscuit. Fucking A, Kyle.
Fucking A, Kyle.
Let's go ahead and dive into, before we get into FTG, I got to talk about this. Lauren, amazing friend of the show. Lauren, formerly of Three Bells Outfitters, has a little bit of a side hustle going right now. And we had put up on, I think it was actually Christmas Day, on Facebook and on the Patreon, on the Jigs and Bigs Patreon. So the Jig heads have known about this. Our good friend Lauren over at formerly of Three Bells Outfitters has a sweet new side hustle up and running. She has made some really, really great Jigs and Bigs pint glasses for the crew that are here at the show. Joe, I still have yours. It's floating around here. I'll have it for you for the 13th. Okay. I said, and we're going to make them available for you guys as well. And if you want one, you can email Lauren. I have her email address right here. The glasses are available $15 each with just the logo design. And there is the number 200 listed, printed inside the lateral line of the bass to commemorate the 200th episode, which is awesome. And then you can add your name or your Instagram handle, etc. on the back, and it brings it up to $20 a piece. There is a flat shipping rate of $10, and she can ship up to 5 glasses for that amount, which is pretty freaking awesome. But then to make it even better, $5 of the sale of every single one of those glasses is going to Veterans Inc., which is awesome. So, Lauren, we appreciate you. We appreciate you obviously and your talents, but we also appreciate you making a donation with some of the money coming in for these amazing products. So I will leave. I'm going to actually tell you guys Lauren's email address right now, but I will put it in the notes of the show. So if you forget it, or you can go and look at the notes of the show right here. I'm actually going to copy this text and put it right in here from the Facebook post. But you can email Lauren if you want one of these mugs at L Harris. That's LHARRIS 831 at gmail.com. She's got a website that's currently under construction and all that stuff we will share once we have it, obviously, because we want to support her as much as we can. But yeah, these glasses are beautiful. They look really great. The printing is fantastic, and they are dishwasher safe, which is a big deal. A couple of you guys have already ordered some. I know that we have one going out, I believe, to Roadkill Nick. Chrissy Radwowitz also got one of these puppies as well. So if you guys want to get your hands on a limited run of these Jigs and Bigs pint glasses, go ahead and check that out. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some significant bullshittery happening at one of America's favorite tackle retailers.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
You know, Bass Pro Shops just can't get its shit together, can it?
They're becoming like the fucking Spirit Airlines of retailers.
They really are. It's so fucking weird, man. Like, it's become cool to just have antics at BPS. And it's crazy. Sean, go ahead and shed a little bit of light on this current situation that went down in Alabama.
This was the Alabama one. I'm going to be so brief on this because it was insane.
Yeah.
And now remind me on this, Bobby, because I sent you the article. Was this guy naked?
He was naked,
yes.
stripped right down. Yeah.
Naked guy runs into Bass Pro Shops or goes into Bass Pro Shops, takes his clothes off, jumps into the fish tank.
Yep.
And then on the way out, falls out, climbing out, knocks himself clean out to the point where as he was being arrested, some bystander threw a towel on him so nobody had to look at his ass and junk.
That's very considerate.
So I didn't know the knockout part. That's new to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Out. Knocked himself clean out. Yeah, he was being arrested unconsciously. And
so did he climb over and then fall straight down?
Sounds like it.
Oh my God, you dumb fuck.
So that's crazy. And the fact that he was naked, that gets you on the registry. No one wants to be on.
Yeah, it's true. That guy's going to be popular at the post office.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that sucks. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And I will say this much, that we do, through the 6 degrees of separation, actually have a connection to the manager over at that specific Bass Pro Shops. I am hoping we can get some commentary on this, because I'm just curious. Like, I mean, I wondered what was up initially when I first started seeing like younger generation kids wearing like Bass Pro Shops t-shirts and hats and hoodies and stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, I would be hosting trivia and I would get like a bunch of college students, you know, 20, early 20s coming in, and they're just like having a good time. And, what ends up happening is like, you know, there's one of them that'll have like a Bass Pro hat, and it catches my eye, obviously, and I'm like, what is this all about? What's actually going on here? Is this like, are they wearing it ironically? I think that they are, right. And that's kind of what I chalk it up to. And I'm like, hey, whatever, that's fine. It's just like these kids that wear like Carhartt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of doing it ironically, I suppose. But I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. And I think that just the antics at Bass Pro with the tank, I mean, like, how many other stores are you going to go to that has a legitimate, functioning freshwater fish tank right there, you know?
You know what's weird?
What's that?
They haven't done it at any of the Cabela's, and they're owned by the same company.
You know what?
You know why?
That's true.
Because their fish tanks are covered at Cabela's. Because you have the fish tunnel at Cabela's.
So not at the one up north, not at the one in Berlin.
The one in Hartford has a tunnel.
You're right.
So
the one in Hartford. Yep. The one up in Berlin is just like, it's a smaller tank, but it's just like Bass Pro. It's not covered.
Is that tunnel at the one that's in Hartford? Is that metal or is it paper?
It's like fake rock. I don't know, some sort of plastic or some shit.
I thought it was flesh.
Well, obviously, I walked right into that. And I paid for it. Flesh.
You know, that's a really, really good. And how come they're not like sporting the Cabela's hats? I mean,
so now we talk. I think we touched on this a little bit the last time we talked about this with the fucking ding dong with
the tarpon.
Actually, I don't even think it was that. I think it was the one prior to that.
Oh, Foxborough?
Where it's like now it's just like the trendy thing to do. You know what I mean? So honestly, I don't think this will be the last one. I think there's a couple more. I think there's a couple more in the system.
Like we just talked about, bandwagoners are ruining fucking fishing.
Yeah. Yep.
If I see some other fucking dude's nutsack at Bass Pro flopping out of the fish tank while he's getting a high level concussion, I don't need these Kitechs. I'll go elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Granted, what's going to happen is either they're gonna start. Yeah, no shit. They're gonna either cover these tanks somehow, whether it be plexiglass or whatever, or they're just gonna get rid of them altogether. Which my kids love looking at those. So then it comes down to the one person shits their pants. We all wear diapers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's fucking great.
Does Bass Pro really want to get rid of these things? Because they're getting an awful lot of publicity lately. It's once a week. On mainstream news.
Really are. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's always something.
Any publicity is good publicity, I guess.
I suppose.
Are they telling their employees, like, hey, if you see some idiot taking his clothes off in the store and getting ready to jump, I mean, get over to him, but you don't have to be super quick. You know, hey, stop, don't do that.
Like, let him do what we're doing, so that we can get the clicks and the likes,
Yep, or just call the cops immediately, so they're already on their way when this fucking ding dong.
Yeah, they're like, we got a TikToker here. Can you come in and do whatever?
Yeah.
So as they're showing up, as they're there, they're just like, hey, listen, can you do us a favor?
Make sure to tag us in your post.
Yeah,
when you get released from the clink, can you tag us in your post?
Granted, think about it, and this is kind of like business 101, I guess, but how many people are just fucking scrolling on their fucking phone have seen this on, because it is right now, it is on the Fox News fucking app.
Yep.
So how many people have never been into a Bass Pro or whatever? Like, I'm just going to go check out one of these tanks.
Yeah.
So now you got these people who never typically would step foot in this store now are, and maybe they'll buy something. So whatever.
So maybe they'll buy one of those cool hats to fit in.
Or maybe they'll steal a fish.
This is Frank down here at Leeds, Alabama. Yet we got another drunk nude knocked himself out again.
Oh, fucking hell.
My guess is that registration in the post office is already pretty fucking long down in Alabama.
I'll bet you it is. Oh, my God. I fucking love it. We're making friends. We're making friends all around the country, guys. We're living up to our New England standards is what we're living up to. All right, I'm going to go kill a can of beans and choke down a can of brown bread. Guys, we're going to take a short break. Do we have anything else we have to pop in here? I think we kind of checked all the boxes.
No.
We did.
Did we talk more about the 200th episode? Tickets still available? I already forgot.
Tickets are, we did early on. Okay. Yeah. Tickets are available. Just as a reminder, if you guys are at this point and you're like, are tickets available?
Hey, Bobby, are tickets available for the big show happening on the 13th?
I'm glad you asked. They are. They are available, in fact, and you can get them. Go to jigsandbigs.com, or if you're following us on Instagram, you can just click the link in our bio. There's a purchase link right there. Just click that sucker. They will be available until like the end of the day on the 11th. We have to hand over our head count on the 12th that morning. We're going to do so. We're still hoping to get some more tickets sold. So if you're considering it and you're like, I don't really know, you should definitely do it. I'm also going to give you guys a little bit of a heads up while I'm thinking about this right now. When I did my walkthrough over there, I got a finalization on the menu. Everything listed on that ticket site for the menu is available with the exception of the elk carving station. There is no elk available for this event. But everything else is on there. I've been assured that the kangaroo kebabs are going to be of the utmost quality. I also know that we have a 3 different beer options. They're going to go with 1 light, 1 dark, and I believe an IPA. The bar is going to be stocked with every single possible element you could possibly want in there. We'll see you guys. It's going to be awesome. And get your tickets. Don't fuck around. Stop fucking around. Get your tickets right now. Do us a favor. You're giving me, I could have a stroke at any time. You should just get your tickets now. Really. We're going to take a short break. On the opposite end of this break, you guys are going to have a great conversation between myself and Alec Plotnikiewicz, a local absolute hammer who has just been out just killing it. He's got a new boat. He's got a plan for 2024. We have to make some plans and get out and do some fishing, but that's neither here nor there. Make sure to give this a listen. It's a really, really good conversation. We dive into some pretty good stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. Some of it actually ties in to this list of like craziness that went on that's ruining fishing that I think is going to kind of work nice. So go ahead, give that a listen, guys. We'll see you on the opposite end of that interview with a wrap up, and don't go too far. We'll be back with more after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for just the tip or bait of the week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. Oh, man, I'll tell you, my 2024 is off to an amazing start. It's just been just balls to the wall craziness. But we have an amazing interview segment here. We got a great guest, a returning guest. We got Alec Plotnikiewicz with us. And I'll tell you what, I feel it's been a while, Alec, since we've had you on the show, right? It's probably been it's been over a year. Like 14, 15 months, something like that?
It's been a long time. It's almost 2 years, I think.
Has it been
I think it was episode 108, maybe, the last time I checked.
That sounds about right. So yeah, we're coming up right on 2 years there, which I feel like is kind of like the ideal sort of situation to do any kind of follow up, because in that amount of time, you've had some pretty big stuff going on.
Yeah,
you know, we're talking about. I mean, let alone like the fishing's been great for you. You were one of those friends of the show that send us a lot of content and tag us and a lot of that stuff. So you're out there killing it in Western Massachusetts. And we're asking ourselves, what the fuck are we doing? So you're out there killing it, but also like new boats, like life changes, like stuff's been going on. So like catch us all up to speed. What's been up?
So I mean, geez, since the last time I was on, like you said, I got the new boat.
Yep.
I had the Tracker 40th Heritage Edition before when we talked last, and I had just recently got it the season prior. And this past October, I picked up the Tracker PT 195 Tournament Edition. So, you know, another 2 feet in length and a lot more width and 150 horsepower motor instead of the old 40 horse that was on the other one.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a pretty big upgrade. I think, I mean, I got married since the last time we were on.
Yeah, congratulations, man. That's awesome. Love that.
Thank you.
How is married life? You got everything good?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean,
beautiful.
we had been dating for so long before we got married. We were already living together, so we kind of just rolled into it.
Yeah. No, that's
nothing
awesome.
changed.
That's kind of how it was with my wife and I. Like, we had, we got married. We had a 4-year-old. 4-year-old. No, she wasn't 4, was she? Jesus. Oh, yeah. She was like 4. Jesus Christ. That's what I always tell people when they ask me, like, what's the key to a good marriage? And I was like, as soon as you start dating somebody you think is the one,
knock them up right away. Just fucking knock them up and then break up for 2 years and then come back together.
That's an amazing story. Someday maybe I'll share it. I don't know. That's good. Things are good. I'm glad, man. What else has been up with you?
Not too much. I've just been fishing as much as I can. I'm still working a ton.
Yeah.
But I get out every chance I get. I'm lucky where I have a decent schedule where I only work 4 days a week. Yep. I have every Sunday off and then a rotating schedule during the week. So I get a lot of weekdays to get out there and, when it's not too busy out. Just been fishing as much as I can and doing all that. I'm in a tournament club, a TBF affiliated club that's out of Western Mass. It's called the Pioneer Valley Bass Club. I've been fishing with them for the past 2 seasons.
Nice.
And that's been going great. Had a couple wins, couple second place AOY finishes back to back. So
that's been awesome, going good. Good. I'm glad to hear it. That's awesome. You're freaking killing it, dude. And like I said, I mentioned your content before. If you guys aren't following Alec, you're failing at life. You're dropping the ball. You need to follow Plotno7 on Instagram. And I bring this up because, you catch donkeys, but I'll tell you, one of the things I love most about your content is your camera angles are amazing. And you use a camera. We've had conversations online about this before, but you use one of those, what is it called? A something 360? Insta 360?
Yeah, Insta 360. Yep.
And it's such a great setup because you've got a good vantage point, or right in the corner of the boat, but you get 360 degrees. If there's something going on, you have access to it. But it's just it's great. It's almost like being on the back of the boat watching you just hook into these absolute tanks. So it's a really cool thing. I recommend you guys go ahead, follow Alec. Definitely check that out and see what's going on. Let's dive into, when you and I first talked about scheduling this meeting, we were talking kind of about goals. What is 2024 looking like for you? Do you have anything lined up on tap that you want to try to accomplish? Like any resolutions as far as fishing goes that you want to kind of dive into, or what's on the agenda there? What are you hoping to accomplish in 24?
Yeah. So, I'm definitely looking to, up my game a little bit. First and foremost, I want to come in first in Angler of the Year in my club. I'm fishing the same club again. Nice. Like I said, I came in second the past 2 years behind the same guy that came in first the past 2 years. So, we got a really healthy group of guys that's good. It's competitive, but it's all in fun.
Yeah.
We're not a big club. We're not going out for thousands of dollars. You win a couple $100 every tournament if you win, and so it's real light competitive, but for me, it kind of gets competitive juices going again. When I played sports throughout my whole younger years in college and stuff, and I just really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and we got a great group of guys. So I'd like to jump into getting to the first this year in Angler of the Year.
Hell yeah, man!
And along with that, I think it kind of helps me to be more consistent on the water.
Yep.
I think that's my biggest hurdle to get over strictly in tournaments is, I'll have a lot of, good finishes and I'll place in the top 3. Mm-hmm. And then, I'll have 1 or 2 of those tournaments where I just kind of flop and it's just not a good day out there. Don't place very well. And
it happens.
It'll hurt. And, it does happen. And, and I understand that. And I think it's just something I want to try and limit those days during tournament days. Yeah. And sometimes those days just happen and the fishing's tough and you can't figure them out. Mm-hmm. And, I like to think that I can do better to limit those days. And sometimes you probably just can't, you know, but one other thing I would like to do is be less stubborn. And that kind of correlates into the more consistent thing. And sometimes I get that tunnel vision. You know, I have the 10 rods rigged up with what I think they're going to be on that day, and I try to force feed them. You know, you're going to eat this jig in this color with that trailer, and it's just not happening. You know, so I gotta be a little bit better about switching up when I'm throwing to maybe get more bites.
That's man, that takes a lot to even acknowledge. You know what I mean? It really does. I'll tell you, the thing that makes it tough is we can only like react, you know, like we can only control our reaction to those types of things. It's just one of those deals where you kind of have to go with, I guess, a clear mind and be open to, you know, switching things up if need be. I like the term you used, tunnel vision. You know, I like the way you worded that too, that tunnel vision, because yeah. And also the way you said like force feeding, because it happens with me all the time. I'll have a plan and it's not necessarily lining up. And then I start to just kind of spiral. And then oftentimes what will end up happening is I almost lose sight of paying attention to the clues and figuring out a pattern that might actually work. And then I just start junk fishing, like throwing something to see what's going to stick, because I'm like, well, if that's not working, we'll try this. How about such and such? Yeah. Do you have any idea of like how you're going to like go about it, or are you just going in with an open mind?
A little bit of both. I think, like you said, it's a good thing to let the fish kind of tell you what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're getting follows on something, you know, throw and they're not committing, throw something that maybe is the same color, but a different presentation.
Yep.
Or vice versa, a different presentation. Or I mean, the same presentation, but a different color.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes those little clues will help you get onto something.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is just, you know, just be willing to dumb it down as much as possible and just throw a wacky rig or throw a Texas rig weightless Senko.
Yep.
And just grind that out. I mean, it can suck because the bite's slow, but sometimes all you need in these tournaments, because generally if you're struggling, a lot of times everyone else is too.
Yeah.
You're on the same body of water and the bite could be tough for everyone. So the biggest thing I want to try and do too is make sure I get 5 fish.
Yeah, exactly. You want to
make sure I get to that 5.
Yep.
And then from there I can worry about upgrading size if it comes to that. Because a lot of times, you know, when I have finished in the top, you know, top half of the group, it's, you know, I only have 5 fish for 10 pounds, which I mean isn't a bad day, but
no,
you know, it's not anything to write home about in the sense of, you know, a weighing bag in a tournament, but it still gives you that consistency to, you know, hopefully in my case, get into first in Angler of the Year. And I think that it's just the matter of getting to that point of realizing just stick with it and stick to, you know, if you have to grind it out with a Senko, just grind it out with a Senko.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
You know, once you get that 5, even if they're all 5 12-inchers, you have 5 fish and you can go from there and upgrade.
Yep.
You know,
yeah.
And then you could throw the stuff that you thought was going to work. And, you know, so I might try that in a couple tournaments this year, is just get to 5 as easy as possible.
Yeah.
And don't worry about how big they are, and then try and upgrade throughout the day.
Yeah, it's funny, man. There's like, I always have this theory, like, you know, they always say that there's a little bit of luck that is part of fishing. And I feel like where that weighs in the most is when you're talking about quality of fish, the size of fish, not like looking at a body of water. And like, if you know there's a big population of bigs in there, that's different. I'm saying looking at one body of water and where in the water those larger fish are, that's like where the biggest element of luck. And I'll be honest with you, I think that's a situation where maybe, and that is like, I'm using it in air quotes, like maybe forward-facing sonar can like assist with that as far as knowing like the size of fish that are out there, but it's still, who knows what the species is, You know, there's still a wild card. I feel like there's always going to be some kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
You know, one way or the other. And it is. I think that's the biggest challenge. Like a lot of folks and I know it's happened to me the few times that I've done any kind of competing where I might hook into a fish and I'm like, man, this isn't going to help me at all. But you're right. Like getting to that limit, focusing on catching, you know, I really like the way Sean the fisherman puts it. He goes, start out by, I just got to catch one fish. Okay, now we've got one. Now I just have to fill a bag. Whatever that limit is, we do that, and then we can worry about the rest later. So I think that's a great plan. Do you have any suggestions for like when you're looking to upsize? Like, where's your head at typically? Are you going to throw? You know, are you in that camp of like big bait, big fish, or are you more of I'm just going to try to target specific pieces of structure? Or is it a little both?
Yeah. Honestly, a little bit of both. I'll let the fish tell me, like, if they're hanging around rock, then I'll focus on rock. If they're hanging around wood or docks, I'll focus on those. But this year especially, I definitely got into throwing the big baits a lot more.
Yep.
And it definitely helps. In some cases, it definitely helped.
Yeah.
And I got onto some good bites with it in certain places, and it definitely helped. I mean, the one tournament I came in first this year, I caught the lunker of the tournament on a 7-inch glide bait.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
So it's not a massive glide bait.
Yeah.
In big bait standards, but for me,
it's bigger than conventional. Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm still working up to getting into those bigger baits. But right now I'm very comfortable throwing, you know, the 7 to 8 inch size glides, and you know, it's one of those where it helped me a ton. I learned a lot during pre-fishing, throwing that bait around for that tournament.
Yep.
And I knew if I was struggling, it's Webster or like Chugga Bugga whatever.
Yeah.
And it's one of those places where it's just full of docks everywhere. And I found a bite where it was just pitching the glide bait around docks and watching fish come out for it. And even if I wasn't catching those fish, I'd say, okay, I know there's a big fish under this dock. I can come back to it later and maybe try and catch it with something more conventional.
Exactly.
Or try and get it to come out to the glide bait again. Switch up, you know, the color I was throwing or the size or vice versa. So it's one of those things where upsizing did help me in certain instances this year.
Yep.
You know, it never really hurt me because that's one thing I've been good about is I don't get stubborn with the big baits.
Good.
Because I don't get them locked in my hand because I'm a traditionally conventional guy.
Yep.
So it was easy for me to put that down and say, okay, I haven't had any followers in, you know, 10, 20 minutes. I'll put this down for a little while and try something else.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You know, there's always that conversation that folks have too about like, what's your follow-up bait? Like when I'm going out for the day on my kayak, there's 2 rod holders on either side of my seat, and the rest of my rods get stored behind me in my bag on rod holders there. And what I always try to do is I'm like, okay, so I got to find fish. So I'll start with something that's like moving, and depending on conditions, that may look different. You know, it might be a finesse swim bait one day. It might be a chatterbait another day. It might be a swim jig, depending on what I'm dealing with. And then I'll have something else. Like lots of times it might be something a little bit more finessey. It might be a Ned rig. It might be a weightless Senko or a small Texas rig or something like that. It might even be a jig, you know, and it'll be something that's more or less like once I see a fish and I can spot, like I'll get either a follow or I just see them in the area, then I can slow down and throw something. And I've seen before, like where I've had a follow on something big and then just immediately just switched over to that follow-up bait. And usually I try to plan in advance and this only is like leaving the launch. Otherwise it's a crapshoot, who knows? But when I plan ahead, I try to go like and match those profiles a little bit, like, or at least the color a little bit more in the same sort of element. So if I've got something that's got green with some blue, I might have a Ned rig that's got green with some blue to try to follow up, you know, against that swim jig or whatever it might be. It's just, I mean, I love the mentality of the competitive angler. You know, when you're going out there, it is like, I don't know. There's just something so unique about the way that different folks will plan their attack on a specific body of water or something. And the beauty of it is, it's like there's so much personal preference in there. It's like it's almost anything. Yeah. Almost anything goes. There are limits, obviously, but yeah, that's just freaking nuts, man. So how in that like instance you're talking, how did it work out for you? Did coming back later and downsizing or switching up the presentation?
So in that instance, coming back didn't do anything. It was a tough bite for everyone that day. Yeah. But I was able to get 5, and it wasn't anything special. You know, I had 1 4. I forget the biggest. It was in the 4-pound range. It was high 4s, and that was the lunker of the tournament. And then the rest of the fish I had were relatively small. I had one smallmouth as well that was like just under 3 pounds, and I think I weighed in 12 to 13 pounds for the tournament. Yeah, that ended up winning. So when it's on a place like that with that types of weights, it was a tough day out there. Because generally, you can get 20-pound bags out there, consistently.
That's the thing. And that body of water specifically gets hammered all the time.
Oh yeah, it if you go on the state's website, it's in the top 1 or 2 in places that hold tournaments in the state. Congamon being another one that just gets hammered. Just gets it from both Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's a good point.
They're great bodies of water, but they get hammered. And I talked to a lot of the guys that fished Webster kind of consistently.
Yep.
And that they said this year was a weird year out there. The bite was never real consistent for them, and especially like late in the season. They were able to get on stuff usually every year, pretty consistently finding the fish out deep. And this year they had a hard time finding them. Yeah. They were saying. So I think that place has taken its fair share of beatings in the past couple of years. So
nice. Since we last had you on the show, what's your, I know I asked you before what your confidence baits were. Has anything changed or come into the fold as far as presentations that you're like, yeah, this is one thing I've got more confidence now in?
Yeah, definitely the jig.
Oh,
the
really?
jig is now my number one. I always have it tied on, and I always probably have multiple tied on. And I really wanted it. One of my goals a couple years ago. I know we never talked about goals when we spoke, but one of my goals was to learn how to jig fish, because I was a strictly Texas rig. Yeah. Guy back then, and I didn't have the confidence in the jig. I had them and I'd throw them and I wouldn't get bit.
Yep.
I wouldn't have a good day on it, and I'd just put it to the wayside for another month until I'd try it again. Mm-hmm. And the past couple of years I've really locked the jig in my hand, and now it's my biggest confidence bait I have. I love throwing them.
It's so wild. I've when I first started catching fish on jigs, I was throwing, like a 3/8 ounce Arky head all the time. But it's so funny, man, because like this last year has totally changed my opinion on various sizes of jigs. I've caught pretty good fish on like much larger jigs, like 3/4 ounce, like punching jigs. I've caught a ton on finesse jigs, which is like, like a jig is so versatile. It astounds me when I talk to folks that are just like, they over mystify it almost a little bit. Like if you can fish a Texas rig, you can fish a jig. If you can fish a Ned rig, you can fish a jig. It's all like, and it's super versatile. And then, it's funny, like swim jigs this year, the biggest thing for me, and this kind of leans toward that bigger bait sort of mentality. I've upsized all the trailers on the jigs, on the swim jigs I'm throwing. Like now I'm throwing at 5-inch paddle tails at minimum. And I've noticed an increase in the quality of fish that I've had and the number of bites.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if it's directly related to the fact that it's a larger profile and it can call fish maybe from a little bit further. Cause that's always been a big thing with me with big baits is I'm trying to lean on big baits for 2 things. When they get finicky with like the conventional stuff, I like to either go big or go small, either direction or sometimes even both. But for the big baits specifically, what makes them unique is I'm trying to use those to call fish out. So I had only one instance this year where it really it paid off. I was throwing around. It wasn't a huge bait. It was a 6-inch mag draft. And I was just getting followed on it like crazy. So I went and I downsized a little bit to like more of a finesse swim bait in a similar color. It was like a perch pattern. And then I instantly just started hooking up over and over and over again. And it was, it's kind of nice because like, that's why I want to throw like those big, like the mag drafts and the glide baits, is to kind of get the attention of fish when they're feeding and see if I can call them out from more of a distance. If I have to, catch them on another, presentation, that's fine. But I just kind of want to get that. Like I hear it all the time, and I still have to kind of build the confidence to like get it to click in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I'm a little bit closer now with throwing the larger trailers on the swim jigs. Like it's that secondary action too with the skirt versus throwing like just a big swim bait on an underspin or on a like a owner beast hook or something like that. You get that undulating skirt. So like it's sort of starting to help my confidence a little bit. But yeah, like jigs in general are just fucking versatile, and you just can't go wrong.
Like you said with the bigger trailers on the swim jigs, I've done that a little bit this year too, and I've really seen results with it as well.
That's awesome.
And part of me wonders if it's more not so much the size, it's the overall profile. If it's a little taller, like generally in a swim jig, unless you're throwing a white one, you're trying to mimic like a bluegill most of the time. And those bluegills' bodies are tall. So I think if you throw that bigger chunk of plastic on there, it's just more volume to the bait than just throwing a regular swim jig. So it might mimic that the push of the water. And I think it might be something to do with that more so than the length. But because like I've thrown the Beast Coast Miyagi on the back of a swim jig, and that's just it's like a 4.75 swim bait, but it's got a big body to it. It's not very long, but it's got a big body. And I noticed when I was throwing that, I was getting a lot of bites in spots that I was throwing the frog over vegetation. And I started throwing that instead of the frog. And when I was throwing that, I was starting to get bit in spots that they just weren't hitting the frog, or they weren't hitting. I was flipping in with a Texas rig and stuff, and they wanted something moving, but I just had to lock in that size apparently, and the action that you're looking for.
And the action is something too. That's a whole other part of it. Like I'm a guy that will get stuck in a rut where I'm going to throw those fat impact Kitex, like that style paddle tail swim bait all the time. And this year I've tried to get out of my own head a little bit and play around a bit more, like where I've been using more like shad shaped baits. This fall, I was cleaning house on these little 3-inch, I think I got them at like Cabela's. They're super generic, like minnow, like black top, pearlescent kind of belly. I throw a little bit of highlight on there with some spike it markers. And what I would throw them on was just like an open hook net, like an 1/8 ounce. And I'd throw these around for multi-species, and I would catch everything on them. It was fantastic. Probably the best fall I've ever had with like a moving bite at all. It was absolutely out of this world. It was great. But like you change up that action and that does I think I wasn't giving myself enough credit for doing that. So like I got into throwing some Largo shads that have a different sort of movement than that big fat tail just swinging in the back left to right, which is great. Like, but they've also, number one, seen that a bunch, but it's just a completely different action altogether.
Yep. I agree. And even like you said with that fat impact, how they have that wide sweeping tail. I think sometimes they're looking for something that's a little more subtle.
Yeah, I agree.
When you see bait fish, generally, they're real small movements and real tight movements. There are times where that fat impact is the deal, and that's what they're eating.
Oh yeah,
and we've all had days where that's the case, and sometimes for whatever reason, they're just looking for something as subtle as possible.
Yep.
And, if you can learn, and this is something I've been trying to teach myself, and part of what it works into my goals for this coming year is learn to, even if it's just as simple as switching up, like you said, on the back of a Ned, switching up that fat impact to a different type of bait. And sometimes it can be something as simple as that is what turns them on. So it's one of those things where I've been, like you said, just switching it up, and you had great luck with it doing that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, a testament to it.
Yeah, I can't get enough of it. I think it's definitely something that, you know, this year is funny. I picked up a bait binder, and I dedicated one. I've used bait binders for soft plastics all the time, just to kind of like downsize what I have to carry. And not bring it. It doesn't stop. I mean, it hasn't ever been effective. Like I still bring every single plastic in another bag or something, but it's stowed away. But to have access right where I am, like pretty much the general stuff that I'm going to throw, I keep in a bait binder. And this year I pulled all my swim baits out of it, and I picked up a separate binder, a larger one that's a little bit more organized, and they're all organized by size. And I have anything from like a 2-inch to a 5 or a 6-inch. Yeah, I think some of the biggest ones that I have in there are 6-inch. Swim baits of all varieties, and it's really kind of paid off. I think it's made a big difference. That's one thing this year that I've been doing. Throwing swim baits in general has been that's becoming more of a confidence bait on my end. I don't know if you heard on the show earlier. What was it? Late summer. It must have been like mid to late summer. I had I think it was actually like August or September. I had hooked into a good sized pike on a small, tiny finessey swim jig, and this was over at Anoda, and like I fought this fish for what I thought was like 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. Brought me into the grass, like, you know, my finesse. This is my wacky rig combo that I'm throwing this on. Tiny little 3/16 ounce finesse jig with a 3-inch Kitech on the back. And I got this fish up to the boat, and he broke me off right as I was putting the net in the water to scoop him up. And he was bigger than my catch board. Like this would have been something where I would have had to be on the bank measuring this with my tape measure alongside the board to even enter it. But I'm like, you got to be absolutely kidding me. And it's just like I feel like the throwing swim baits, like. This year for me, it's totally been a new confidence bait where I'm going to lean that way a lot because everything eats bait fish. Now we're talking like big baits and stuff. Let's go the entire opposite. Are you getting into BFS at all? Like, where's your head at with all this stuff?
So I haven't yet. The keyword is yet. I'm sure at some point I will. And that's another thing that, you know, a little goal. And so pretty much I want to get better with the more finesse stuff. Mm-hmm. And you know, I always have a drop shot tied on. Yeah, that's easy enough. And one bait that I don't have any confidence in, and it's weird because, you know, I fish the jig and it's the Ned rig. Oh yeah. And for whatever reason, I just can't get bit on it. And it's part of it's my fault for not throwing it enough. Yeah. And sticking with it when I am throwing it. But for whatever reason, I just don't have the confidence in it. And every time I tell someone that, they kind of look at me a little funny. They're like, seriously? Like that's something that everyone gets bit on. And for whatever reason, I've yet to have luck with it. But I definitely want to get into the more finesse stuff because that's another thing that can help, you know, in my case, during tournaments where I'm not having a good day out there. And it's something where I say, instead of just sticking the jig in my hand and trying to force feed the fish with it, I can switch out to something a little more finesse on the opposite spectrum of throwing that big bait. And, you know, I've been listening to the show and hearing you guys talk about the BFS and all that. And it's definitely something because me personally, I like throwing the, you know, bait casters more than the spinning rods. Yep. So it's definitely something that kind of fits my likes that I should definitely look into. So I see myself down the road definitely getting into the BFS setups and going that route with it. Even if it's not throwing, you know, like small top waters, but if it's just throwing, you know, like those 3/16 ounce Ned heads on a casting rod, you know.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you know, it's wild, dude. This year, so I've been pushing hard for the multi-species tournaments that we've been running, the national stuff. And I've been having a blast with it. It's so much fun. But I'll tell you what, like really for a lot of these species, I find myself leaning toward my spinning combos in order to just throw the small enough baits in order to be able to get bit, you know? Not to say that that's an issue, but here's some old man shit. So holding a spinning rod all day for like 6 or 8 hours gives me like the worst like flare up carpal tunnel. Like it's just the mechanics of the way you hold a spinning rod. Holding a bait caster is way easier because I generally, when I hold a bait caster, I hold a reel, kind of palm it as much as I can. And I do that. So it's a little bit different. And even better is switching between the two like all day long, something like that. So like when perfect example is this, like when I go out trout fishing, I'll go out and I'm generally throwing all spinning gear all day long. I've got one combo that's a little bit shorter that I'll throw like small jerk baits and stuff like that on. I have another combo, and this is the other combo that gets used a lot for my really light baits. So inline spinners, what else do I throw on there? The really small soft plastics, beetle spins, stuff like that. And this stuff works great, but I need a really, really light combo to be able to, cast these effectively. And I had the other, that rod also plays a role. My drop shot rod, I purchased it specifically for that. And I find that if the drop shot's not getting bit, I end up cutting off that rig and then having to re-rig something else. And I'd like to try to avoid that as much as I can. I'd like to keep that sucker rigged up with a drop shot. That's the one that I go to, and that's kind of what it does. So for me, BFS kind of filled two roles. It kind of put something in my hand so that this way I can, use a search bait, and then I can also, I can use my other spinning combo with a follow-up or something along those lines. I could throw a larger Ned on that. But the BFS stuff is I think going to help me out quite a bit. So I had been looking around at some of the stuff, and I'd been picking people's brains. And a lot of people have been buying like the Corrado BFS reel and some of the rods that they're choosing. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, they're rated for like an 1/8 ounce at the lightest. I'm like, I'm looking at baits that are like genuinely like ultralight baits, 1/32 ounce jigs, tiny sub 2 inch, either minnows or swim baits, anything like that. And then like the beetle spin, that style, that like micro spinner bait has caught me so many fish and put me in a good position in a lot of these tournaments. So I took the leap this year, and I put together a combo that was at the recommendation of Jeff and Paul at Aggressively Average Anglers. And dude, the rod just showed up yesterday. Holy shit. Nice. It's so nice. It's a Shimano Majestic XT. It's the smallest rod I've got in my entire, it's the shortest rod. It's a 6.5 light, fast. Wow. Yeah. And it's just the way it's developed, it's just got enough tip where it can really do it all pretty well. Yep. So I'm like, I'm pretty fucking stoked on this. We'll see what I just awesome. Just before our interview, remember we were talking earlier about full disclosure. We'll remove the beef curtain here. Alec and I had a conversation before we started this on Instagram, and he said, "Hey, are we doing this?" And it was a little after 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's because I had to clean up a little dog mess. But before that all happened, I dropped like $100 on ultralight lures at mule fishing. So I'm like, I'm a mess, dude. This is the worst time of year for me. This is the worst time of year. I'm a financial disaster area. Yep.
The expo season's coming right around the corner, and it's tough on me.
Are you planning on hitting up all the expos locally?
Yeah. I'll definitely be at the New England show.
Yep.
I'll most likely go to the New Hampshire one as well, and then I'll probably. Last year I wasn't able to go, but I've been going for years to the Springfield one at the Big.
Nice.
So I'll hopefully be going there this year.
Make sure you come by and say hi. We're gonna have our booth at the Springfield show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I did a look at my calendar to try to put some things away. So it looks like for me the weekend of the New England fishing show, I'm actually going to South Jersey with my kayak to fish with a listener, and we're going to record some content. So that weekend is out for me. And then I was like, oh, what about the New Hampshire show? I'll take a ride up there. We'll see what's up with that. And I look at that. I believe that's the same weekend I'm going to Lake Jordan to fish with the jabberhammer. So I'm like, I'm probably going to miss that one too. In a way, even though I'm taking trips and I'm going to be spending a little bit of money there, I think overall I'm actually going to be ahead. I think by the time tax season comes around, I think I'll be ahead.
as long as you're not losing a whole grocery bag's worth of baits on those trips, I think you're all right. You'll be in the green.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I mean, I'm already stocking up. Like the thing is now, I'm not buying stuff right now that like I've got. My entire focus right now is kind of like putting together some gear for BFS fishing and then leaving it sort of at that. The only other thing that has been on my mind lately as far as spending money is the idea of getting a boat. Yeah, that could be rough.
That's I'm in that boat right now. I bought my first one with cash and didn't have a payment on it, and this one I financed after the trade-in, and still I see that payment. I'm like, it's doable, but I'm just like, man, I wish I didn't have that.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to chase it down. I mean, I was talking last week with Art Slater, and we were talking about getting out and fishing. Like, don't get me wrong, I love kayak fishing. I truly do, and kayak fishing with other people is really cool. But for me, like, I love to fish with other folks, and I know that I could have a better experience just having fun and fishing with people, especially like folks that don't fish all the time, that are like looking to like, oh yeah, let me go and try this out. It would be an easier sell to say, okay, I'm going to drop my boat in over here, meet me at the launch, than to say, you got a kayak? Or, I'll tell you what, I got my paddle kayak. You're welcome to it, or even, even like in my wife's case, I'm like, no, you take the pedal kayak. You take the Titan, you go out in that, I'll paddle behind you in the Ascend 128, and it'll be great. And she's like, with her especially, she's like, I'm going to fall out of that thing. I'm not, she won't even go and give it a shot. On the hottest day of the summer when it would be refreshing to fall into the pond, she won't even give it a shot. Like, it's ridiculous. So it's got me thinking that maybe it's boat time. Like, maybe I need to start looking around to see what we can do for a boat. I just don't want to have another registration and maintain and all that other shit. I'm like, another trailer that I have to register because I've got multiples already.
Yep. And you know what boat stands for? Break out another 1,000.
Yeah,
and I'm finding that out already with this new one.
Really, you are? Now
a lot of it's been my own fault.
All right,
but it's I have half of a 3-in-1 transducer on the back of my boat right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it I don't know what happened, but I was about a month or two after I got it, I was running, and all of a sudden my graph went black and said I lost connection to the transducer. When I stopped and looked, there was half a transducer down there.
That ain't good. That's not good at all.
So I got to get that replaced, and then I have an issue with the onboard charger. I got to get that replaced, but that's under warranty, so that's fine. It's more of just a hassle having to deal with.
That's good.
But
no, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's been fun. Got to get all this stuff figured out before the spring, but that's all right. I got plenty of time.
That's the thing. You have time to kind of get things worked out and all of that jazz. Yeah, it is. You hear that all the time. Like folks will say like, oh yeah, I broke a prop, or I broke this, or I got to replace this on my boat. I need a backup, whatever. And it's funny. Like I'm looking at stuff, and like you mentioned, like you've upgraded your tracker. And same thing with Art last week. He was telling me about a tracker. I think aluminum's the way to go, hands down. Like that's where I know what kind of a dipshit I am, and I know it's going to be a smart move to have an aluminum boat. I'm kind of leaning toward like more of like a deep V type hull. Cause again, like I'm basically the recreational angler. Like I'm not really going and doing any kind of like crazy tournament stuff. I don't really need anything. I'm looking at like the pro guides. Stuff like that I think might work out pretty good. Like I want a console. I want to be able to sit down and like, motor from spot to spot or something like that.
Yeah.
But I also want to have enough seating where if my wife and kids just want to go and cruise around on the river and go watch the fireworks for the 4th of July, because I know that's exactly all they care about, that'll work for that with no problem, throw
100%. And honestly, I kind of agree with that idea of the, like those DV pro guides for what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not looking to do the full on bass boat tournament stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need the, like in my case, the 195, Even like the smaller versions of it, the 175.
Yep.
That's those are bass fishing boats. And I mean, you can obviously multi-species fish off of them, but that's what they're meant for. They're meant for fishing, and there's not much luxury on them, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And, you know, they got 2 or 3 seats, you know, it's tough. Like on my old boat, you know, it was tough to go out with more than 2 people on it. It was rated for 3, but there wasn't a 3rd seat. And once you get 2 people on it with gear, you're kind of cramped for room. So that was part of the reason for wanting to upgrade, you know, was getting something with a little more space on it, so I could bring out more than just me and one other person. Yeah. And especially on like during team tournaments, it was getting tough on my old boat where we could do it, but you know, you're making sure you're not stepping on rods and tripping over bags and stuff because they didn't have a lot of space for storage. So a lot of the stuff was just out in the open. Now I got too much storage that I know what to deal with, so I'm trying to figure that out. But it's definitely allowed me to have that more space. And I think with those pro guides, it's nothing but comfort on those, and with the benefit of having a deck space for fishing.
That's exactly it. It's a little bit of everything. Because like that's what I was saying last episode is like my wife, she tried early on. She's like, oh, you want to get a boat? You should get a pontoon boat. Think about all the fun parties we could have on there and everything. I was like, and I did the math in my head. I was like, realistically, I was like, how often do you think you're going to come out on this? She's going to probably come out like once a month. I was like, okay, so for you, once a month is like 3 months. You know, maybe 4 months. I'll give her 4 months. Maybe she comes out in May. So that's 1/3 of the year. I told her, I was like, every single other trip that gets used for is going to be for me for fishing, which, right, you know, at this time I was only fishing like twice a week. Now I'm fishing 4 days a week, generally. You know, which I think I should be doing better when I'm on the water fishing that often, but it doesn't seem to be the case. But we'll get there. One problem at a time. And so I told her, I was like, you know, I'm going out twice a week. I'm like, that's 8 times a month. I go, you know, the majority of the time I'm going to be dragging around this boat that's not really geared toward what I'm doing. I'm just needing to make it work. You know, so I think maybe I could kind of sway her on something like this, and she might, you know, be all right with it. I'm checking some of these out, because that's the other thing with me too. Like, I want to travel. I want to go and hit bodies of water that like I have no experience on whatsoever. I'd like to go fish the Great Lakes, you know, and check that out. So I'm looking for something that can handle that big water, handle passengers, and like also it makes sense for like trolling if I was going to go that route, you know, trolling for like salmon or whores, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh God.
I mean, honestly, just take a trip to Bass Pro with her one of these days and let her see the pro guides in person.
Yeah, I think that would be the move. I'm actually, you know, it's funny too. I'm trying to get her to tag along and just do a walkthrough at the Sportsman Show. Because then she can, you know, take a look at some of these things. I can show her the difference between, like, you know, what I got to do is I got to get her to take a look at Joe's Skeeter and say, you see that? That is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, that is too much boat for us. We don't need that. Yeah. You know, I also think that, you know, getting her to go and actually fish with me would be way easier if she could just chill out on the boat and we could go. Also, it would be easier to get on fish, you know, versus when we go out and we bank fish. It's like I think she caught a turtle once when we went out. She's never caught a fish out with me, which I think is ridiculous because I've been like, what's going on? What are you doing? Yeah. You know?
And I was in the same boat with you. My wife, she likes to fish, but she didn't like going out on the kayak.
Yeah.
You know, I before I had the boats, I had a Pro Angler 12, and she would borrow her brother's sit-in. She just did not like going out on it. So we would barely go out. And then once I got the boat, she works in the schools, so all summer she's like, are you going out on the river? And I'm like, yep. She's like, can I come? I'm like, sure, if you don't mind getting up at 6:30 or whatever.
That is awesome. Like that, you got it. That's a home run right there, dude. I haven't.
Yep. So it definitely helps having the boat.
Yeah.
definitely helps having the boat.
It's one of those things. Like, I don't know, like financially, if it's in the cards necessarily. I'm looking at some of these prices. You know, Art was like, "Oh yeah, you can get into a bass tracker for like, $15K," and I'm like, "That's reasonable." But I start looking at some of these Pro Vs, and we're looking at already $24K.
Yeah, the Pro Vs are a little more expensive than the bass boat models.
They definitely are, and it's funny. Like, I love the layout of this Pro Guide V16 SC. It's got a small console. It's pretty open platform for the most part, and what's it got on here? 90 horsepower Mercury. Yeah. That's more than enough.
Yeah, especially for our area. You don't need much for horsepower. My old boat was a 40, and I was fine on pretty much every place we went.
Oh yeah,
especially like in tournaments, except for when we'd have ones on the river and guys were running a mile down. That's when I was like, okay, I think I need an upgrade.
You need to upgrade a little bit.
Passed by guys going 60, and I'm going 30.
Well, and also like especially from the competitive side, like. If you are in that final hour or something, like part of, we've talked about on the show, part of any kind of tournament at all is time management. And part of that time management is I have to get off the water at a certain amount of time. So we got to kind of plan ahead and keep in mind when it's time to go. If you can't get those speeds where you can get back there, that's less time that you have to fish because now you've got to kind of go at the pace that you can.
Exactly.
And then you add like Joe and I had fished one of the Berkshire Bass tournaments, Memorial Day weekend, which was
I fished that one too.
That's right.
Yep.
What a shit show! What a shit show! Just the wreck boats are insane. And by the way, so I'm going to go ahead and tease this now because this will be right before this will run right before the 200th episode. So at the 200th episode celebration, actually, Alec, this interview is episode 200.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I worthy?
Oh, you're worthy. You're worthy, man. We're a Western Massachusetts based podcast, and you're a Western Massachusetts hammer. So yeah, you're worthy, 100%. I wouldn't have it any other way. But we're doing something fun at the 200th episode. So episode 201, all the listeners are going to get to hear this. We're doing a tier list, which you've probably heard of those before. Like internet culture loves these things, like taking a category and breaking certain elements into tiers and listing by quality. And we're doing one with fishing stereotypes, like people and activities and all sorts of different things that you might encounter fishing. And I've been using AI to generate photos for some of these, and some of these are so freaking good. And I'm gonna tell you what I put one of the categories that's on there is pleasure boaters, and the graphic I had AI create was recreational boat with a grill on fire. And it's a picture of like a bayliner with just, I'm assuming there's a grill in the back and they're just flames firing off the top. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Perfect.
We're going to get into it. Feelings are going to get hurt. Even in the fishing community, it's going to be ridiculous and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. But man, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that's wild though, man. You're right. Like, you got to make upgrades for what your goals are. I think you made a good call.
Yeah.
I think the red looks good with all the content you've been putting up too. Like,
yeah, it definitely pops a little bit. I was always one of those people that, and there are people out there that agree with me and they hate red boats. Hate red boats. And I was one of those people, and I wanted this tracker, but I wanted to build my own and get it in white.
Yeah.
But then I saw this one at fairs, and they had just dropped the price on it because it was a 2023.
Yeah.
And it was, they were waiting to get their 2024s, and it had the tandem axle trailer that I wanted for it, which was a little overkill for the size of the boat, but it just tows so much nicer.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it rides smooth as shit too.
And it's like a Cadillac back there. I barely even notice it, and it's great. So like, it was one of those where I was like, I don't care that it's red. I can't pass up on this deal. Yeah, it's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't have to do anything with it right away.
Yeah,
I'm eventually going to do some upgrades to it, like electronics wise and stuff, and get all that taken care of. I just don't know if that's in the cards for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
might be something I save up for and do at the end next season. Upgrade the electronics and get some stuff that's a little more modern. Because right now it's got a bow mount and a console mounted graph, but they're just like the Lowrance hook units, which get the job done. They got I've got side scan on the console one and down scan, and then the front one's got 2D and down scan. So that's really all you need.
That's what I use.
All the other stuff is a bonus and just helps.
Yeah.
So eventually I'm going to upgrade all that stuff and get, some more modern stuff. I don't know if I'll go full on forward facing. I would like to.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's something that I'm going to be able to swing financially.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. So it might be something I work up to, I get the graphs that are compatible with it.
Yep.
And then
there you go.
The following year, then I upgrade or do something along those lines. But that's definitely in the cards for down the line.
That's awesome. That's funny because like I had a conversation just a couple weeks back with a buddy of mine who was asking me, he's like, so hey, are you going to make the leap and do forward facing? And I was like, I don't really have a need to. Like I don't need to try to stay competitive. So for me, there's much less pressure, but I was like, you bet your ass in the next 5 years, I'm probably going to get it. When it scales down a little bit more, also it's something like I'm using a Lowrance hook unit. I'm using a hook 7, with the side scan. And for my kayak, it's great, especially for the way that I fish. Like I go to a new body of water or something like that, and I'll just throw on like the side scan and just kind of get an idea of what's going on, maybe mark some stuff. And then, when it comes to, and actually when I do eventually get into a boat, I'll probably be doing a lot of that just as additional trips out, to grab the cooler and go out with the wife and just say, yeah, I'm going to go and mark rock piles. That's what I'm doing. And, it works great for that, but like there's no pressure for me to get into it. So I'm just kind of letting technology do what technology is going to do and drive that price down a little bit lower. And then, I'll take the leap into it when I'm ready. It's like, it's not, there's zero pressure for me. And I mean, are you a big offshore angler at all?
So I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's another one of my goals for this upcoming year is to get better at fishing deep.
Same.
I'm a bank beater. I power fish and I bank beat, and that's where my confidence is and where I've had a lot of success. And, I've had a little moderate success fishing deep. And deep to me, deep kind of ranges depending on who you talk to.
Oh yeah. And the water itself,
And all, exactly. It all depends on the body of water you're fishing.
Yep.
So deep to me is anything over 15.
Yeah. Yep.
Anything over 15 feet is deep. And, realistically, what I got to get better on for the types of bodies of water we fish in this area generally is that like 20 to 30 range.
Oh,
and I think a lot of the places we fish, you're not finding much deeper than that unless you go out to like a Onoda that has those deeper holes, and that all constitutes in the same category of I need to learn how to fish a little bit deeper, like in that 40 range on that place. Because I've been there a handful of times and I struggle at that place. So it's just one of those, I got to learn how to fish deeper. And, I've listened to all the people I can and got all the knowledge. And for whatever reason, I still struggle on fishing deep. And part of it might be just a patience thing on my end. But I'm thinking I'm in the right areas and I'm thinking I'm doing the right things. And I think part of it is the electronics I do have. I'm only using 2D, and not that you need more than 2D to fish deep.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
I think just the quality of the graph that I have.
Yeah.
In that case, when you start getting out to those deeper depths, I think it would help to have a little bit more clearer of a picture, just to see exactly what I think I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think I'm marking stuff, and I'm like, I think that's a fish. That looks like a fish to me, but I'm just not entirely sure.
Yep.
You know, and I think if I had a little bit bigger of a graph, a little bit better quality of a transducer, it might help me kind of narrow that down. not that I need it.
Yeah.
Because I know guys that can fish deep and they don't need it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's more of just a tool to help me
for sure
get that confidence.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely.
Because, I think I'm in the right areas. And the biggest thing is, they say you got to find the bait when you're fishing deep like that.
Yep.
If you're not finding the fish themselves, you got to find the bait and then you'll find the fish. So
yep.
I think with that graph I have on there, it's tough to mark bait. So it's like I'm thinking I'm seeing stuff, but it could just be, some debris in the water, especially
some grass.
Most of the deep fishing I've done since I got this boat has been on the river in the late fall, early winter.
Oh yeah.
So with that, there was just debris floating down. So I don't know if I'm marking bait or if I'm marking just leaves and crap floating down.
Oh, for sure, especially in a river system. Oh
yeah.
My God.
So it's one of those things where it was just I got to get better at fishing deep, and that's definitely something on my goal for this next year.
Yeah.
To just figure out how to better, because it just opens up that much more of the body of water for you.
Oh, definitely.
And that's where a lot of the big fish hang out. Some of them stay up shallow and hug cover and hug shade, and then the other ones, they're deep.
Yeah. Definitely.
So
it's good to be able to play the game, on both ends.
Yep.
I had a situation so when I went up to Moosehead last spring, I went up with Delirious Angler, and we had gone out to fish Moosehead, and the wind had kicked up early. I don't even think, I want to say it was 11 a.m. It wasn't even in the afternoon, and we're out there, and the wind kicked up, and we decided we go and hit this other pond that was nearby. And we go, and this was on a recommendation from some folks at a tackle shop that were in town. And we go over to this spot, and where our goal was to fish for smallies. That's really what we're after. But in those lakes up there, it's all about those cold species fish, or those cold water fish. Those the lake trout are huge. And there was an instance, and it was interesting because I've had my graphs that I've been using. That hook 7 unit that I've been using, I've really only been using the traditional 2D sonar for the most part. And then I forget what the hell they call it. There's another type of downscan. That's what it is.
Downscan, yep.
Downscan. So what I had done was I had started fooling around with that downscan and side scan. Side scan, that came later this summer, where I started actually really kind of trying to break apart my electronics and learn a little bit more about it. And so I did a little bit of research in side scan, and there's 2 instances that paid off. This first one at Moosehead was, so the wind was terrible, and it happened to be blowing in a direction that was parallel right alongside this one straight bank. And along this bank, there were big rocks and a handful of laydowns and stuff. There was cover all over the place, and I was kind of focusing on that. And I had backed off of the bank and pushed myself out into deeper water. And when I had done that, I had seen something on my downscan, because I was messing around with this because I wanted that clear picture. And I feel like because it's a black background and whatever color you select, I feel like it helps. It helps make things a little bit more visible. You get an actual sort of impression of what it looks like versus just the 2D in there. And I went over something, and I was like, that wasn't debris. That wasn't a lay down. That wasn't a branch. I mean, I was in, I think 30 foot of water or something like that. It was deep. Yeah. And I'm like, that had to have been a fish. So I did a big J turn in my kayak, and I went up into the wind a good amount, and I just let myself drift down. And I was actually throwing a 1/2 ounce inline spinner with a copper blade and a big dressed treble. And I hooked into a laker. Right there. And I'm fairly confident, because of the distance that I had traveled, it was probably the same fish. So I'm like, all right, this is a good thing. Cool. So I caught this fish. It was all good. Fast forward to later in the summer, I was at a NOTA, and I had gotten some word about a couple of rock piles where I could find a couple of the species that I was looking for. And they're like, they usually stack up in these rock piles. You can find them in this part of the lake. And I was like, okay, cool. Sounds good. I couldn't find them. And I was like, wait a minute. Let's just use side scan for this. So I flip over to that. And again, side scan's an easier sort of image to kind of break down because I don't know, for some reason the perspective kind of makes a little bit more sense to me. So I was able to kind of like map and go over a grid and find these rock piles. Sure as shit, both of the species I was able to catch them because I actually knew the structure that they were going to be relating to. You know, I took a chance and it happened to work out. I do realize that there's a portion of that's luck, you know, that those species happen to be there and happen to bite that drop shot or whatever it was. I threw a beetle spin or something like that. And it worked out. It was great. I couldn't believe it. So it's like, I think utilizing electronics is one of those things that people whine and complain about it, but I think the folks that often do are the ones that aren't willing to put the time in and just fuck around a little bit. Because even if you don't have forward-facing sonar, if you figure out how to use the tools that you already have and the graphs that you're using now, because initially when I was like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll get a fish finder. I want to know the temperature and the depth. That's all I care about. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's good, but it can tell you so much more. And there's value there, you know?
And generally, the type of fishing I'm doing, all I really need is the temperature and depth.
Yeah.
Until I start wanting to expand on my craft and go out deeper.
Yep.
And you know, that's another one of my things I want to work on for this year is learning my electronics a little better, the ones I do have. Because, you know, I think I have everything set up to the best that it should be, but I probably am missing a little nuance to the 2D or to the down scan that will clear up that picture just a little bit more. That helps me get that quality picture I'm looking for. So honestly, I might not even need to do the full upgrade as soon as I think I do.
Oh yeah.
But it's one of those things where I got to look into more learning my electronics too, as well as just expanding on getting better stuff.
It's so funny, man. I had this year I bought an accessory for my graph that I never thought I would. It's one of those like sunshade like visors.
Yep.
Right. And I was at first, because I used to just leave it open all the time, like, you know, anything. And I wasn't there was just so much glare on the screen, you know, especially like midday. You know, it's the worst. You just can't escape it. So I picked one of these things up, and I remember Sean telling me, he was just like, I wouldn't expect too much from that thing. And I'm not saying that it's perfect all the time, but it makes a huge difference, you know, in general. Like there's some times where I might get some glare because of my position or something like that. But just that was enough to be able to shield it, to make it a little bit clearer and stand out, you know, a little bit more. I'm curious, what do you run for batteries on your boat?
So it just has what came with it. It's just the Interstate.
Okay.
AG ones. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The green marine ones.
Yep.
So that's what it has on there for now. I might eventually upgrade those as well.
Yep.
But that's what I had on the old boat, and they've always treated me well. I haven't had any issues with those, and a lot of guys that have them. You know, some have issues with the Interstates, but I haven't, and I haven't heard anyone that I know that has them. Have too many issues. So since they're brand new, there's no issues with them.
You might as well get the life out of them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the life out of them.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to upgrade or switch them out, I might think about upgrading to something. Maybe go lithium, but we'll see. Yeah. And hopefully by then, the lithium prices go down and it's a little bit more affordable to deal with.
Yep. Absolutely. I think that's the thing. I think that's probably the most like financially responsible way to look at it is like, hey, I did the same thing like with my truck. When I got my 4Runner, I was like, I hate the tires that are on this thing. But I'm like, they've got 0 miles. I'm like, I'm going to suck it up, and I paid for them. You know what I mean? I'm going to use them. I'm going to let them. And I was just like, please wear down. Let that tread just make it like 40,000 miles and we'll trade it. You know, we're good. Nope. We got to just over 50K. And I did my last inspection, and I was like, nope, I'm going to replace these tires. I mean, they passed, but I'm like, it's close enough for me. I'm swapping them out. So I made the upgrade. It's like that I think is the best way to do it. Like, you know, I mean, those batteries they're tried and true. People have used them forever. And a lot of it, I think, is like maintenance and stuff, making sure that you're diligent about your charging method and everything, all that stuff. But yeah, go for it. And then when you want to upgrade, and that's the beauty of it. Like you said, those lithium prices are going to start to come down, and you'll be able to mess around with some of that stuff. That's freaking awesome, dude. I'm looking at your profile and I'm like, the deck space alone between those two boats is totally different.
Oh, it's like double the space. It feels like
it really, like it's absolutely, it's insane. It's insane. Just the dimensions, but good for you, dude.
So much room for activities.
Yeah. So much room for activities, sir. This is a Wendy's. Oh, man, this is really great. Alec, thank you so much for being part of the show, dude. Before we wrap things up, I want you to do me a solid and let folks know, like if you're working with any companies or anything like that, you want to go ahead and, give them a plug. I say go for it. Let people know where they can find all your fishing content. If they have any questions for you, if they want to reach out and get a hold of you, how can they do that? This is your opportunity. Promote yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So, biggest thing is the couple of partnerships I have. Number one being Ben's Tackle Shack in Leicester, Mass.
Yep.
They're a small, locally owned father and son tackle shack, and they carry tons of the top brands in the industry. And they're a great group of guys, and they've done a great job of supporting me and helping me out. And I always recommend them because they're just a great knowledge, and they're also the people that put on the expos. They help coordinate all that stuff. And Dan and Ben, the owners, are two great people, and I can't thank them enough for supporting me. I work with Vector Hooks as well.
Yeah,
I don't have any discount codes for you or anything like that, but they're great hooks. They're made in the USA. They support veterans, support the military and all that, and it's a great group.
And they're the official hook company of Dark Horse Tackle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're awesome. I just want to shout out Beast Coast Fishing.
Oh,
the jigs. I strictly throw their jigs.
Yep.
Derek, the owner's a great guy. And those jigs have given me the confidence to be a good jig fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of that, Douglas rods. I've been slowly switching over completely to Douglas. I'm no direct affiliate with them, but I rep Douglas for Ben's Tackle Shack. They sell Douglas rods at the shack. So you can get them there or from Douglas's website. They'll also be at all the expos. Yeah. And you can find me on Instagram at Plotno7, Plotno7. And like you said, if you got questions, feel free to reach out. I don't mind talking fishing with anybody. I'm no expert by any means. I'm just a guy that likes to fish and has some knowledge, and I'm willing to share most of it.
That's awesome.
So it's, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really promote fishing on anything else other than Instagram. I do have a TikTok, but I don't use it very often. It's more just looking at stuff, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Unbelievable, man. Yeah. You're the second person that we've had on in the last handful of months that's mentioned those Douglas rods. The other one is Armando from Bass Kayak and Beers. And I believe Douglas is from the Northeast, aren't they? New York, I want to say?
Yeah, they're New York, I believe.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
That's upstate somewhere.
That's awesome, because that's the thing. You don't hear a lot about rod companies that are in this area. I mean, you'll find a custom rod maker and all that stuff, but somebody that's got a full line of stuff, that's pretty slick. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. This is really good. I appreciate you being on, man. Do me a solid if you could send me a pic of you holding just a giant tank, and we'll use it for the artwork on this episode.
Perfect. And hey, I just want to say congrats to you and the guys on hitting 200.
Oh,
that's a
thank
great
you,
accomplishment.
Dude.
I'm super happy for you. It's a lot of commitment, and that's great that you guys have gotten there. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to make the actual show at the Munich House, but I'll definitely be grabbing the non-attending ticket just to help support the cause and all that.
Nice, man. We got some good prizes too in that raffle. It's gonna be really, really good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great.
Sweet, man. I appreciate it, dude. We will be in touch. We'll do some. You and I, we should fish.
Yes.
And
hey, one more goal for 2024 was
what's that?
To fish with more people.
Oh, hell yeah.
And biggest thing that popped into my mind was you, because we've talked a couple times about getting out on the river and going for smallies and stuff, and we haven't made it happen yet.
Yeah.
Especially with the new boat, we got more space than we know what to do. So we'll make it happen this year for sure.
I love it, dude. Sounds like a plan to me, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Sweet. All right, dude. You have yourself a good one. We'll be in touch, and I'm sure I'll see you around.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome,
for sure.
dude. You take care, all right now?
Yeah, you as well.
All right. Have a good one, man. Bye-bye. All righty, guys. Jigs and Bigs, another amazing segment. This is episode 200 you're listening to. This is crazy. This is this show that we just completed and just kind of walked through like hacking away with machetes like we're going through the jungle. Yeah, this show, that's what the reason why we're celebrating. So, hey, congratulations. Always love talking to Alec. I especially love the fact that I can post my pictures of where I'm catching fish, and he fishes a lot of the same places that I do, and he's like, I know where you were. Nice, that's good for that area, or something like that. I love that shit. I don't know, it's the tie into the community I'm all about, so it's all good shit. Great conversation with Alec. I'm hoping that he has a great 2024. He's going for that AOY this year, so good luck on your mission there. It is a haul, and I think he's got the right mindset. I'll say that much. I think he's got the right mindset going forward into it. So we'll see how things go. Sean, how are you? How's things?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. We're all right. We're wrapping up 200. This is what, 197 episodes I've done. You got the full 200?
Yeah.
No, I got 198 because I wasn't on 1 or 2. I jumped in on 3 and then things rolled from there, right?
Something like that, pretty much. Yeah. It's fucking kind of crazy, man. It is kind of fucking crazy.
We got some fucking food to eat next week.
Yeah, we do. We got some food to eat. Metal Jones jumping in says, see you in 6 days. That's it. 6 days, man. It's going to be crazy. And what a fucking mission it has been. Unbelievable. 200 shows. 200 shows, man. 200 shows, 200 hoes. It's been crazy. It's just been nuts.
Where did they come from?
I don't know. I'm slowly turning into Puff Daddy,
Okay.
Been around the world and now
sorry. I'm losing my mind over here.
Holy shit.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to Saturday's show in a major way. I'm really, really stoked to see how people do with the tier list as far as voting and all that. I'm really that's really going to be next level. I might even consider doing another one of those for the Columbus show over at Oldfields in Columbus, Ohio in February when we're there for the Columbus Fishing Expo. I may consider doing something like that. That might be kind of fun. Folks that want to get involved and cast their vote for the tier list, it's kind of a cool little way to do it. So it'll be kind of fun. I do think if we're going to do it there, I have a feeling we're going to do it Ohio isms. We'll make it really local. We'll dive into it. We'll be let's talk about Cincinnati chili. The fuck
I was just going to go there.
Yep. I mean, I'm not against putting chili on my spaghetti. I'm not at all. I'm not against putting my chili with a mountain of cheddar cheese on it. But really, is that what you want to be known for? I will say this: Ohio items that I am all in on. Motherfucking Buckeyes. Yeah, I'm into that. I don't know. We're going to have some fun with it. I think this week's show is going to be absolutely awesome. Keep your eyes posted on all things social media. If you're not going to be at the show, because we've got what's called a social booth. We're going to have folks snapping pics and posting them on their social media networks, and kind of you'll see what's going on in and around the Jigs and Bigs 200th celebration. All that night is going to be awesome, and should be really, really good. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be fantastic.
We're also in the process of planning a mock Bass Pro Tank shop for customers to jump in and knock themselves out. Yes, hopefully nude.
That would be ideal.
Go for it.
Yeah. What we're actually thinking about doing is doubling down on it, making a game out of it. We're just going to build up a mock-up Bass Pro Shops tank that's going to be a dunk tank. And we're going to have people try to flip 3/4-ounce jigs at a target. And if they do and they manage to sink whomever is on there, it might be, if I'm not mistaken, it might be Delirious Angler that will be up there. And if you dunk Delirious, you'll win like a teddy bear or a wet hug from Delirious. That's what you can get.
Fair enough.
That's what our wallets can provide you. Fishing the Stick says, just drove through Ohio last week. 3 middle finger emojis. Wow. Yeah.
This is fucked up. You know what? With all the cross country driving I did, especially on 80 and 90, you know what I always remember Cleveland for? Not the view of the lake.
Yeah.
Not the Jake, where the Indians play.
Yep.
Well, pardon me. What are they now? They're the Cleveland, whatever the Cleveland baseball team is. I know they changed their name. Whatever the fuck they are.
I forget what they changed it to.
Yeah, the not the Indians. Cleveland, the 3 or 4 times that I drove through it, it was like as soon as you hit the city limits, fucking dead raccoons on the highway.
Oh, really?
It's like an inordinate amount, an unusual amount of roadkill raccoons. Thank you, Pat Martin, with the Guardians. That's what they are now.
They are Guardians.
Guardians of fucking raccoon corpses, apparently, because I've never seen so many dead raccoons on highways, like raised highways that are 100 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
200 feet off the ground. Dead raccoons everywhere.
How are they even getting there? It doesn't make any sense. Are they running up the ramp?
I don't know. They're running up there and getting hit. I have no fucking idea. But that's what I remember Ohio for. Dead raccoons in Cleveland.
I remember counting the amount of dead deer when my wife and I drove to Ohio to go and pick up our puppy. And we counted I think we hit 50 on the ride in.
That makes sense. Probably most of them in
Pennsylvania, New York, primarily.
Pennsylvania, New York.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, all over the place. But yeah, Ohio is a funny place, man. It just is.
It
just is.
Apparently a lot of dead animals.
A lot of dead animals. A whole lot of dead animals. Guys, it's going on. It's happening. The 200th episode we've recorded it. It's complete. You're going to digest it in your ear holes. You're going to think about all the goodness that we put out there. And here we go to 200 more. Let's see what we can do. And if you're going to be at the celebration happening Saturday the 13th, awesome. We're looking forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you can't make it, but you want to be involved, you can definitely go get your tickets right now, which are the non-attending tickets. It'll get you, each ticket will give you 30 entries into the, into the raffle, so that you can win some fantastic prizes. We've got stuff from Heat Your Meat that's going out there. We got some stuff from A-Bay Lure. We've got some stuff from, I believe, we got all kinds of baits. You can Dark Horse Tackle, obviously. We've got some other really, really great items, and there's some that I'm still waiting to get confirmation on. I am busting my ass to make sure that this thing comes together and is amazing. I'm very, very excited about it. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Sean, do you have anything you want to dive in and jump in and wrap up with? Any words for our listeners?
Nada.
I love it. You guys go ahead, have yourselves an amazing, amazing week. I hope you have a good one. If you are out there and you're managing to catch some fish, and it can be done even this godforsaken winter that we're dealing with, make sure to do us a favor and tag us in your fish pics or your reels or whatever you're posting on social media at Jigs and Bigs. We would love to live vicariously through you, throw you a like, maybe a comment, maybe even share your stuff on our story as well. Until the next time we see you guys, episode 400, you have yourself a good one. We will see you in 7 days with episode 201, Jigs and Bigs. We'll see you. Don't go too far. And like we always say,
it's an ass, smoke some grass.
segment number 2, the final segment. Rolling.
It's the final segment. That too.
All right, I am rolling. Let's go ahead and do this. I got 3 and a 2